Directing traffic, gonna go deep, has a man deep, it is caught for the touchdown, Corey Davis!
What does he do? Attacks leverage. If he's outside leverage, he doesn't want you to beat him outside. So stem towards him, hold him outside, stamp outside. Drive face, full cell vertical, get into the blind spot, and he absolutely burns it. Corner is lost. He literally has no idea where Wilson is.
Really high floor, really high ceiling. You could be talking about the best corner in the league. Sauce can do that.
This is actual film. This is actual football talk. It's a football show. We're supposed to talk football, not storylines.
And you are watching another edition of Blewett's Blitz Live, a very happy edition of Blewett's Blitz Live. Kyle, my friend, what is up, man?
Not much, Joe. Man, this is one of the most exciting moments to be a Jets fan. I mean, certainly in the offseason. We always win the offseason, but this is truly a very exciting offseason moment. And I could say this right now. There's parts of me that really loves that intro, but you cannot go one more stream without a new one. And that might be putting a lot of pressure on Michael Nania. But, hey, Michael, get it done, man, because it's time for a new one now. Zach Wilson and Elijah Moore play big roles in that intro, neither of which are playing a major role on this team next year. So,
want to know something funny? So, quite literally, as you were saying that, Nania messaged me. He's like, "Hey, there's no need to play that intro anymore with Zach Wilson." So, I guess I'll be getting a new one. But yeah, I think it needs to be updated a little bit. But just woke up, so I a little bit groggy right now, but I'm definitely excited about all the news. We talk about Aaron Rodgers. We got to talk about a center signing for a nickel, basically. Kyle, we talk about Quan Alexander, about draft targets, about guys we don't want at or 15, the trade. There's so much things to get into today, but obviously a good week. Tomorrow we have the draft at 8. We have the Devils Rangers game, game 5 at 7:30, which obviously a great series. You know, early on, Devils were getting blown out and all this stuff, and now they've come back. So that's a great series, specifically for a Devils fan right now. And then Mets are on at 7. So tomorrow is a jam-packed day. And yesterday I was so gassed, just I didn't sleep, obviously, the midnight schedule. But the Aaron Rodgers news, the Connor McGovern signing, and the Devils winning to get the series back at 2-2 propelled me through my entire day yesterday. So these last couple of days have been great for a New York sports fan, depending on what teams you like. Yeah,
well, you and I, in terms of basketball and hockey, are on opposite ends of the spectrum. But for Jets, you know, you and I see eye to eye on that one. Sorry about your Nets, but I mean, I don't think you were really expecting much when they traded KD away.
No. So let's get into it. I almost just called you a different name. Let's get into the Aaron Rodgers trade. Obviously, I almost called you Parker, which is my friend who you never even met before. But I don't know. Again, I literally just woke up, so it's going to take me a little bit to rebound into this. But we're sitting there. It's what, Monday the trade becomes. Is it Monday the trade was official, or was it yesterday? My days are going to be completely.
It was Monday. It was official. Monday around 4-ish or something.
So the deal gets announced, Kyle. What are your immediate thoughts? It comes out that obviously the Jets receive Aaron Rodgers, pick number 15, and a 2023 5th-round pick, which is pick 170. The Packers get back pick number 13, this year's second, which is pick 42, a 6th-round pick, which is number 207, and a conditional 2024 second-round pick that becomes a first if Rodgers plays 65% of the snaps, which we are all assuming he does. If he doesn't, there's obviously a very, very big problem. But you know, there's some little things thrown into there. Okay, yeah, they trade down 2 spots, but they trade up a whole round and you know, from round 6 to round 5. But the real crux of the deal is number 42 and a 1st-round pick next year that's going to hopefully be, you know, in the early, you know, later 20s to pick 32. So what do you think when you immediately saw that deal?
So immediately it's like, on the one hand, it's like, oh, relief, like, oh, it's finally done. And yes,
yeah,
it's reality. Aaron Rodgers is actually going to come and play football for the team that I root for. So on the one hand, I had that, but it was hard for me to be like, yes, and like, you know, screaming and like rooting for it, because it's like, man, that really does seem like a lot, and a lot more than I was hoping for. And, you know, it's 65% of the snaps. That's almost certainly going to be a 1 next year.
Yeah.
And I guess the reason why I had those mixed feelings was, you know, we've been hearing that Rodgers might only do 1 more year. And even today, he didn't fully commit to doing a 2nd year.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
it certainly. But so I was like thinking, like, man, this is a lot if it's 1 year. So I immediately tweeted my thoughts, and I saw that you liked the tweet. So I'm assuming that you kind of had a similar thought to me. It's a lot if it's 1 year, but indications, and even though he didn't commit to it, seems like it's going to be more than 1 year. So that to me really gets me excited, because I feel like the Jets are still another really solid building year away from being like real super legit contenders. But I mean, like, you know, I almost want to say I feel like the Packers won the trade overall, because the Jets did have the leverage. You know what, dude, that word leverage, I don't know how many Jets fans decided to mute that term on Twitter. But I mean, like, the Jets were the only team in negotiations for Rodgers. Nobody else wanted him. So if the Jets really wanted to continue the stare down game with the Packers, they could have eventually got the Packers to cave, I guess, at least a little bit. I mean, like, but that could have also caused problems for the Jets, because at some point you need to get Rodgers in your building, and you need to get him to rework the contract, so then you can worry about extending Quentin Williams, signing your draft picks, potentially bringing in somebody else. And if you don't have him in the building to renegotiate the contract, then you can't do that stuff. And, you know, I mean, I guess also the Jets want to, the organization wants to get away from the distraction and stuff too. So I guess when you really consider that he's more likely than not going to do at least 2 years, and the fact that, you know, at some point you needed to do it just from the number standpoint, I guess it seems to be fair value, but it was definitely more than I was hoping for when you consider that the Jets had the leverage.
Yeah. If he plays 2 years, I'm not really too worried about it. But I would like to see some stipulation in the contract, like, hey, if he pay, you know, which is what we were kind of all thinking the deal was hung up on. Like, hey, if he doesn't play in 2024, you know, conditional second or third round pick or whatever it may be from the Packers in 2025. But based on what we've been hearing, and I'm going to kind of take this like step by step, because my phone is just a bunch of random notes. But pretty much immediately after, or not immediately after, but sometime after the deal is announced for the Jets, you had Charles Robinson, who came out and said that it's a 2-year plan and the Jets feel good about it. So you hope that with the fact that Joe Douglas didn't land the 2025 conditional pick, and that you have some people in the media saying that, hey, the Jets feel good about a 2-year plan, it eases it a little bit. But obviously with a guy like Aaron Rodgers, he could be a little bit volatile, so you never know what happens. And to me, I would bet on 2 years. I think the only way it's not 2 years is if you win a Super Bowl this year, right, Kyle? Which at that point, who gives a shit? Like, we all won't care. Or if it goes catastrophically bad, which you really hope with everything around Rodgers and all the infrastructure in place, it wouldn't happen like that. But I would bank on Rodgers playing for 2 years now. At this point, we'll get into some quotes later, but did it make you feel more comfortable to see guys like Charles Robinson come out and say it's a 2-year plan? And do you think that the contract not having the conditional pick in there indicates that Joe Douglas thinks it's going to be a 2-year plan pretty confidently?
Well, I think one thing that we've certainly learned about Aaron Rodgers throughout the years is that nobody knows exactly what he's going to do. We can have ideas and take guesses and stuff, but nobody knows for sure. But in regards to what you asked me specifically about Charles Robinson, is he seemed to be pretty plugged into the situation. And in terms of, you know, he had this compensation package weeks ago, and it was pretty similar to what he said. So he seems decently plugged in. So yeah, that brought me some solace. And then, you know, I guess Connor Hughes has his sources inside the Jets, and they're obviously, you know, I guess feeding him something that obviously they want him to then put out to the fan base, which I guess is going to reinforce the fan base to be comfort and support this and buy tickets and things like this. And, you know, he seems pretty confident too that it's going to be 2 years as well. So, yeah, I feel pretty confident at this point it's going to be 2 years, but I mean, like, you know, if he gets banged up a lot or whatever, and, you know, I guess if the Jets had a bad year, he might just walk away. But if he had a bad year, why would we want him for a second year? So, you know, I think if it all goes well, it'll probably be 2 years, I think, which, you know. Yeah.
And then it was trickling out that I think it was Hughes and maybe some other people who were saying basically wait until we see the way that Aaron Rodgers is going to restructure his contract, which I'm terrible with contract numbers. I really suck at it. It just,
I think most people are, Joe. I don't think you're alone there.
But it's like $15 million this year and $30 million next year, whatever it is, for Aaron Rodgers on the cap. And then in 2025 and 2026, I believe it was right under like $58, $59 million that were split between those 2 years to pay Aaron Rodgers. So did he give them more flexibility in terms of the money that he owes them in 2025, 2026? And that allows them to maybe push some more money to 2024 into those years. I'm not necessarily sure, but it came out yesterday that he's only going to cost $15 million against the cap. People are like, oh my God, only $15 million against the cap. And it was worded that he created an extra $50 million, whatever it was. And Jets fans like, holy shit, how did he create an extra $50 million of cap space? It's like, no, he still just counts for $15 million against the cap. But I'm curious to see exactly how much of a reduced price or the structure of the contract. That's like how it's going to help the Jets in the future, but we have to see that as well. But that's been it's been leaking out there a little bit that he's going to help us out quite a bit with the contract. So obviously, if we're getting a quarterback for 2 years and we're getting a good contract for him, then we're able to fit some more players, underneath the books or for the season, because look at some of these contracts the Jets are getting and look how much they're backloading them. We'll talk about McGovern in a little bit, but if Aaron Rodgers is only playing for $15 million, if Connor McGovern's only playing for $2 million, we could fit some more bodies in here. So I think quite a bit of moves are to follow, which we'll get into. We'll talk about in a little bit. Some moves we think may happen after the draft, etc. But what do you think about the whole rework contract thing and some news out there about rumors that fans are going to be excited about how he's going to help us out with the cap?
Well, again, I'm pretty much in the same boat as you, that I don't really understand exactly the cap that well and how exactly it works. But all indications does seem like when you have a contract that's that big and has that much guaranteed money in it, there is certainly flexibility. And apparently too, Woody Johnson ended up paying a lot up front or whatever, and that's also going to help the Jets in some way, shape, or form. So I don't know, you got to feel pretty excited about it. Okay, Woody's literally putting his money where his mouth is, so that's pretty darn cool. And just judging by, we haven't really seen the numbers yet for the contract. We're just kind of speculating about them right now. But with that, and also the fact that he came in and everyone's saying that he pretty much rocked this press conference, and he's going to be practicing and in the team facilities, which is something he really hasn't done in the offseason in recent years with Green Bay. It does really, and like he comes here and he says, hey, listen, Super Bowl III, that Lombardi trophy is looking a little lonely. It really does seem like he's all in, and it's not just exclusive. Obviously, money is a huge part of the game, but it does really seem like he is coming here to further want to win and further cement his legacy, which, that's music to us Jets fans' ears for sure.
Yeah, which I guess we can get into that now, Kyle. When you're sitting there and again, I got off of work at 9 o'clock in the morning or whatever it was, and trying to sleep before 2 o'clock was almost impossible. I slept like an hour and a half, and I stayed up the rest of the time just waiting for the Aaron Rodgers interview. I don't know if you saw the him entering the building on Twitter, probably about 10 o'clock in the morning. But that's what happened.
No, I didn't see it that early.
Okay, yeah. So I slept from 9 to 10:30, and then I woke up at 10:30. And I just did a little scroll on Twitter, and I saw him entering the building, and I couldn't sleep after that because I got so freaking excited. So it's cool to just see him in Jets uniform. Listen, at the end of the day, he's the best quarterback we've ever had. You could say since Namath, but I think legitimately, even this year, he'll probably be the best individual. He'll have the best individual quarterback season we've probably ever seen, right? And I don't think that's that much of a reach, Kyle. I'm not saying he has to be 2020 or 2021 Aaron Rodgers. If he's between 2021 and 2022 Aaron Rodgers, then I think that's still the best quarterback season we'd ever have. And you'd assume that he could be a lot better than 2022, obviously, considering that he's not going to be throwing to Romeo Doubs and all these young guys and some of the scrub tight ends that were there. Washed up Sammy Watkins, a hurt offensive line. He had a really good defense. There was a stat that somebody put out there on Twitter that throughout his career, which obviously this includes his prime, but when the Packers allow under 20 points, he's 80-10. And the Jets allowed, I think, 18.6 average last year. So it's really exciting to see a guy as good as him in a Jets uniform, and we should be legitimately excited for the season that's coming. He said some things in the presser that got some people excited. We'll go over some overall. Just seeing Aaron Rodgers walking the building with the Jets, hoodie on. What were your feelings when you saw that?
I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, man. And just as you're describing it to me, I'm thinking man, I had similar feelings. And it's just funny. We're both guys in our 30s. But
it's embarrassing. It's kind of embarrassing. I get giddy
a little bit to somebody who doesn't root for sports. It's man, that seems really childish. I mean, we're at the end of the day, we're kind of still kids in a way. But it's kind of cool that, there's something that can bring you back to being a kid, because, a
Very
lot of
true,
people talk
very
about,
true.
their childhood being some of the best memories of their life. When you get old, you got to work a lot, and, the stresses of life. So that's one of the reasons why people like sports so much and want to keep all the BS of politics and crap out of sports, because sports is like your escape. So, do you want to get to this super chat that we got, Joe?
Yeah, do the super chat and we'll go through some of the quotes
Okay.
with Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, from AP_14 for 550 Canadian, I believe that is. I know we all hate the talking heads, but there is basically a unanimous consensus that this will be a failure and A-Rod has nothing left. Joe, you should comment first.
From what sources, because I feel like a lot of people are kind of hyping the Jets up, right? I feel like a lot of people are putting the Jets in the top 4 to 5 teams in the AFC running. I know that like the sports books, I think, have the Jets at the 6th best odds to win the Super Bowl right now. So I feel like a lot of talking heads are actually relatively positive about the Jets. And now with the Rodgers stuff, you're going to have bandwagon fans. You're going to have the pressure of actually having to perform. It's going to be great, Kyle, going to games, and whether it be the Chiefs, the Bills, whatever it may be, and actually walking the stadium like, holy shit, we have a shot now because we have Aaron Rodgers. But nonetheless, you're going to have people who are going to love the Jets and kind of raise the expectations, so it's a little bit more nerve-wracking to watch the games, or people are going to hate the Jets. There's going to be haters out there, 100%. But I feel, based on what I've been seeing, I haven't really seen a lot of hate, minus from Dolphins fans, Bills fans, Giants fans, Pats fans, Packers fans. But minus that, I think it's been pretty positive for the Jets.
I think I saw a tweet from like Pete Prisco or something like that, who said something like, the Jets are giving up all this for a guy who might only play 1 year. So like, he seemed to be kind of down on the idea. Dave Shitnoy, Portnoy, I mean, like, Barstool Sports guy, he's a known Patriots fan.
He's a Pats fan.
He's a Pats fan. Yeah, he was hating on it. He was like, AFC East quarterback rankings, Allen 1, Mac Jones 2, and Aaron Rodgers 3 and Tua 4. So I think honestly, do you think Mac Jones is better than Rodgers and Tua? I mean, I think he's just kind of trolling a little bit. Honestly, so my brother and I were just talking about how much PFF has blown up over the past 5, 6, 7 years or whatever. Take it for what it's worth. But Sam Monson, who's one of the head guys over at PFF, he's certainly a talking head, if you will. And he said, now that the Jets have Aaron Rodgers, they go into the superpowers of the AFC, and the AFC is obviously the stronger conference. So it seems like to me that most of the people are thinking that this is an overall positive for the Jets. And honestly, if you know anything about the Jets and you want to look at the playoff drought, currently 12 years, which is by far the longest in the NFL, what is the common denominator there? I mean, obviously it's crappy rosters altogether, some bad coaching in there, no doubt. The common denominator is shitty quarterback play. I mean, we're talking about Mark Sanchez. His best year was 2011, I guess you could argue. He had 26 passing touchdowns, 6 rushing touchdowns. If I'm not mistaken, I think he had like 18 interceptions that year, which is obviously a lot. Certainly didn't perform in big moments. Never had probably above 55 completion percentage. Then we go to Geno. Geno was obviously horrible with the Jets. Fitzpatrick had 1 decent average year with the Jets. 2016 was horrible. Josh McCown, for what that Jets team was in 2017, the amount of talent that was on the roster, Josh McCown was actually pretty decent, all things considered.
Yeah.
Darnold, by and large, was garbage. Zach Wilson was somehow much worse. I mean, it's the shittiest quarterback play over that span of time.
Can you imagine Zach Wilson with Sam Darnold's roster?
Oh God, that would be a train wreck.
Yeah. Yeah, so Kyle, let's get into some quotes, and I want to say hello to a lot of people in the chat. It's really freaking exciting. By the way, Kyle will not. I don't know if you're going to see Kyle for the draft at all, but Thursday night tomorrow, towards the end of the first round, right directly after it, I'll be streaming. Probably from 11:30 to like 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the morning. It'll be a little bit of like a nightcap, let's say, because I'm gonna have quite a few during the draft, so it's gonna be a little bit exciting to see how that turns out. But nonetheless, and then Friday I might stream. I'm not sure if I'm streaming on Friday, but you're getting me tomorrow night at the minimum. Kyle, I don't know if you're gonna find your way over here, but
I'm going to try. Thing is, well, I don't need to explain why, but
yeah. Pop-up wedding.
And we did have Friday planned for a stream, but that kind of got screwed up too. But
Okay, so
I'll definitely be here next week to talk about all the draft picks and stuff, and give us our instant takes.
I'm
on
so
that.
excited to watch some of these guys too. I've watched a lot. I prepared my Schweitzer review, my Cologne review, and Kyle, if I told you this in text or whatever, but I went quite literally from watching Schweitzer, Tristan Cologne right to AVT. And I was like, bro, AVT he was so good at the beginning of the season at guard, man. And again, it almost reaffirmed my opinion that he's very good at tackle, but he's very, very good at guard. So that's where he should stay. And I think that's what the Jets are going to do regardless. But nonetheless, Aaron Rodgers presser, we see him walk into the building. We're all getting giddy. Him and Robert Saleh have the best dap up in the world. Perfect hand cuppage. They hit their hands elitely. Like, you don't want to see him come in and like miss their hands and stuff like that, an awkward handshake, the fist to the high five or whatever it is. So you'd like to see a nice dap up, and that happened. And then we're all waiting there, 155, I kick on the stream, then it's like 201, 202, 203, and the presser comes on. Again, I'm excited like a little schoolgirl, and maybe I'm a little bit childish for being that excited about an Aaron Rodgers presser. It is what it is. Like you said, it's a good thing, I guess. But it sounds like, based on what he was insinuating, that he'll be here for for more than 2 years. And there's quotes, or for more than a year. But there were some quotes out there that he'll be here for the foreseeable future, was one of them. He also said he expects to be here for the duration of the offseason, which is something that we were talking about Aaron Rodgers. We were saying he's going to be here for OTAs. He's going to be here for voluntaries. And I think he came out later that he said he might not be here for everything, but he's going to be at least around. So what do you think about Aaron Rodgers' comments to be here for the foreseeable future? And then you have guys like Adam Schefter reporting that he wants to be a part of the offseason programs, and he's saying that he wants to be here for the duration of the offseason. What does that mean to you?
I think the foreseeable future comment is just smart press conferencing by Aaron Rodgers, because on the one hand, he's not giving a firm commitment. He's not putting himself in that Rex Ryan box where, I guarantee we're going to win the Super Bowl. I guarantee it. When if you don't, you get egg on your face. Like, Aaron Rodgers, like, on the one hand, he's saying like, hey, listen, that's the plan. I feel good about it, but he's not 100% committing himself to it. But on the other hand, he is giving us, some hope that, oh yeah, wow, this doesn't seem like it's a 1 year and done type of thing. So that's cool. And in terms of committing to the whole offseason workouts thing, I'm not a Packers fan, so I haven't followed it as closely. My cousin is a very, very big Packers fan, and I was texting him throughout this whole thing. I'd be curious to ask him, how many years straight has Rodgers not been going to offseason related activities? And the fact that he is with the Jets, it's got to seem really cool, because like you have to think, like, obviously a lot of the young Jets players like Breeze, Sauce, Garrett Wilson, Becton, that they're changing their profile picture and things like that and tweeting out positive things. But on the one hand, let's say you had a guy who you don't know. I mean, like, other than like playing against him or whatever, it's not like you personally really know him yet. It's not like he's been on your team before. He comes to your team and then he doesn't show up till like late May or something like that. It's only natural in your mind that you think, is this guy really all in, or is he just coming here for one final big payday or something like that? Mm-hmm. But the fact that he comes in here and he shows up when he doesn't necessarily need to, that helps you think, okay, yeah, this guy's for real. So I think that from a chemistry, team building standpoint, it's obviously really cool.
Yeah. And then there were some other quotes that dropped where he was saying he was excited to run out of the tunnel. I don't know if you heard, I don't know if you saw that one, Kyle, but yeah. I don't know if you plan on being there week one.
Oh, I'm definitely going to be there the home opener.
So what, and really quick, what do you think the home opener is going to be? Because a lot of people are talking about the Giants 9/11, which I believe will be that Monday of the season opener. But with that being said, if it's the Giants, it's a Giants home game. So I think that'd be a good game for them. But for me, I prefer to be in a home game or like away in Dallas. I want it to be, a home game. I want it to be like a Pats home game or away in Dallas. But Giants Monday Night Football, I get it, but I don't know if I want to be at a Giants home game for the first game of the season. So I would love a Pats Monday Night Football game on September 11th with him running out of the tunnel, because obviously, unless the Jets are just complete idiots and their heads up their asses, can you imagine? Right? We're getting all excited. We're talking about it all tailgate, all this stuff, and like, oh, can't wait till he runs out of the tunnel, and then they announce the offense as a whole, and then the defense individual players are like, are you fucking kidding me?
That would be so
stupid. The Jets would do some shit like that, but
they've done that for as long as we've known, because they've traditionally always been better on defense for the most part. Yeah, no, I think I mean, I didn't really think about this until you just posed the question, so I'm really thinking out loud right now. Okay, so Aaron Rodgers' first home game at MetLife Stadium. Yeah, I don't want it to be a Giants home game because it's going to be a majority Giants crowd. So yeah, for his first home game in MetLife Stadium, let's have it to be a Jets home game. So yeah, I would not want it to be the Giants one, but I could see, just for ratings reasons and stuff, the Jets are probably going to get 5 or so primetime games now. It could theoretically, anniversary of 9/11, 2 New York teams. I could see it happening.
Now, I forget the exact people we play on the schedule, but would you rather have it be an easier team that you think we could whoop up on a little bit and gain some momentum? Or would you want to come out and like play the Bills or the Chiefs right away on Monday Night Football and just see where we're at?
I think either way, it doesn't really matter. There is something to, playing earlier, good teams early on, and then like, okay, you play against good competition, and that's going to sharpen you up for when you play the lesser opponents. I don't really care one way or the other in regards to that.
Yeah. And then he dropped a comment saying, this isn't a one and done in my mind. This is a commitment. So if he's saying this isn't a one and done, this is a commitment, and then he comes out and doesn't play the next year, it's obviously going to piss off some Jets fans. So he pretty heavily indicated that he's going to be playing more than 1 year, which is great for the Jets. If I had to put my money down on how many years he plays right now, it's 2. And that's great, Kyle. Like, again, even if he's 90% of what he was in 2021, we're getting a very, very good quarterback. We ranked him. We said he's a top 5 guy still, at worst 5 or 6 in the NFL going into this year. And there's going to be games where he's going to outperform Josh Allen. So it's really exciting to be talked about with some of the better teams in the AFC right now, right? Like, it's the only teams we're going to say that are bar none better than the Jets really right now, or maybe the Chiefs, the Bengals, but then you get into the Bills and some other teams like that, and you can make an argument for the Jets. Like, we'll do the offseason shows where you compare us against the AFC East, but like, where are the Bills 100% better than the Jets right now? Like, running back, we got them, receiver group overall, we may have them. But it's probably more close with that one, tight end comparable, offensive line comparable, defense probably better. So like, we're up there with the class of the AFC. So it's really, really exciting to have a guy like Rodgers under center, and then hearing him say that, it isn't a one and done in my mind, and this is a commitment. And then he also comes out, and I don't think this is in the actual press conference, but he comes out and says that he promises that he's as hungry as we are for a championship, which just gets Jets fans giddy, obviously.
Yeah. I don't know if that's true, but it might be. People have been clowning him for over a decade about his lackluster postseason performances. And if you think that that's not playing in his mind, football probably doesn't mean as much to him as it does to someone like Tom Brady. Like, Tom Brady loves football. Aaron Rodgers clearly does. There's no way that you get to be that good if you don't. But
he wants to add to his legacy for sure.
Of course, he doesn't want to be that guy who he won one when he was young and then just couldn't get it done later in his career. And the fact that if he can go and get it done with another team, like, he's already amongst the greatest of all time. He's in that discussion already. But just because of the lack of championships, who in their rankings would put him at 1? But if he does get another one, and he does get another one with another team, now he's in Peyton Manning and Tom Brady conversation, because both of them did it with 2 separate teams. So, he's definitely looking to cement their legacy. Why wouldn't he be?
Yeah, for sure. And it was really cool to hear him too. And I respect Saleh, and I like him as a person and all this stuff. And I like Joe Douglas, and we can have quabbles about some of the moves that they make. But overall, I feel like we're pretty comfortable with where we're going as a franchise, and we like who is leading the Jets in terms of Joe Douglas and Saleh. And obviously, they have a lot to prove. But overall, Kyle, we're pretty comfortable with them. Like, we can talk about Joe Douglas in certain decisions, and I think his results have been been a little bit kind of worse than his process at times. Like, we can understand the process for a lot of what he does, and sometimes it doesn't work out. It is what it is. But overall, we really do like Joe Douglas. So it's interesting to hear a guy like Aaron Rodgers praise them when just a couple of years ago, would Aaron Rodgers have even considered the Jets when we had, Adam Gase? Like, how times have changed.
Yeah. Joe Douglas, I feel like if that Becton pick was like a surefire, if he didn't get hurt the way that he did, and obviously the Zach Wilson's a huge bust, Those are the two. And I know people clown on the whole 2020 draft class, but you know, especially if Becton really worked out, I think we'd be thinking a little bit differently about him. It's hard to draft a quarterback, man. People bust all the time. And I mean, if Joe Douglas had the one earlier pick and he was able to nab Trevor Lawrence, I mean,
the process wasn't bad. The process wasn't bad at picking Zach Wilson. But I want to get to this, and this is something that Buffalo Jets fan, who, by the way, we have a Patreon, we have a podcast together, so go check him out. But he put this out on Twitter. He said single season records for the Jets QB, and he put up some different statistical record breaking stats for Jets quarterback. So how many of these do you think Rodgers breaks, Kyle? If you had to say, the all time passing yard high for a season for the Jets is 4,007 yards. Do you think Aaron Rodgers throws for over 4,007 yards this year?
It's a 17-game season. I have no doubts. I mean, other than injury, I know that's the only way I see him not breaking that.
He threw like 3.6 or 3.7 last year or something like that. Now, do you have any qualms about, okay, well, maybe the Jets are going to have some leads, they're going to try to run the ball, or even just, okay, you have Keith Carter, you have all these guys from Tennessee, they're going to run the ball, and maybe Aaron Rodgers is not throwing the ball 30, 35 times a game like he was with Green Bay, at times, obviously, and he only throws the ball. You know, there's going to be some games, Kyle, where maybe he throws it only 18, 19, 20 times, and they control the ball on the ground. Do you have any thought about that, or do you still think it's pretty easily over 4,000 yards for
I think
Rodgers?
it's pretty easily over 4,000. Yeah, there's going to be no doubt there'll be some games where the Jets defense plays good and the running game's good. Breece Hall, I fully expect him to bounce back, and he might only throw it for 18 times a game. But then there's going to be some other games where you're in a shootout with the Chiefs or something, and you're going to need to keep throwing the ball. And, you know, he could easily have
Kyle. Can we just take a second, just a deep breath, and just hear can you rewind in your head what you just said that I'm really excited about?
There's going to be some games where you're in a shootout with a team like the Chiefs. Yeah.
Oh my God.
The Jets.
Oh my God.
The Jets in that sentence. Yeah, no, I think if we wanted to just look at his whole career numbers, how many times did he not go over 4,000 in his career? Right? Like that has to be one of the very few years. Now I know there was one year, probably like 5 or so years ago, where he missed quite a bit of time. I think he had a shoulder injury, but like I said, other than like an injury, this guy is easily thrown for over 4,000 every year in, year out. And to get off topic for 1 second, then we just get right back on. Eagle Fang. When I was talking about Aaron Rodgers, I said quarterbacks who won Super Bowls with two separate teams. You bring up Big Ben, yeah, of course, but both of Big Ben's Super Bowls with the Steelers. That was my only comment there.
Kyle, okay. So he throws for over 4,007 yards. Does he throw for over 31 touchdowns set by the invincible Ryan Fitzpatrick?
Yeah, and the argument could go, well, he didn't have 31 touchdowns last year, but yeah, I think he's easily going for over 31 this year.
Okay.
Dude, I thought Zach Wilson was going to toss 30 as a rookie, but man, yeah, make fun of me. Please make fun of me for that.
So we have the over there. I'm going to ignore the Zach Wilson stuff. We have the over on TD passes. The completion percentage record is 68%. Kyle, do we have more than 68% from Aaron Rodgers this year?
That could be less, but it could be more too. What's his career completion percentage? It's probably just around there. Could be a little bit lower.
Yeah.
It's not like he's throwing in a dome. Like Drew Brees was always around the 70s or whatever, but he's throwing in a dome for half the season. So I'll go under there. We can go under there. That's fine.
I think it could be close to that because,
yeah,
kind of like I said with the running game, I think there's gonna be some games where they are controlling the ball on the ground. You're gonna have some people, biting up on the box, and I think they're gonna have some easy completions for him. And he has a lot of throws into the flat under Nathaniel Hackett, so many times. So it could be pretty high. Now the last one that Buffalo Jet fan put up, which shout out to him, podcasting partner, wins, Kyle, 12. So to break it would be 13. I would say
I don't think they're breaking 12. Could they get to 12? Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So if you were Las Vegas right now and you're cooking up the books, what would you select the Jets over under at this year if you had to?
Maybe 10.5. I'm not necessarily a gambling guy, so it's kind of hard to say too. We haven't even seen the schedule yet. I mean, we know who the opponents are, but we don't know what weeks we're playing them, how much rest we have in between games. So it's a little hard at this point, and we haven't even drafted yet too. So that's also
they're gonna plug some holes too. Like we're talking, and we'll get into it. Like the linebacker, the safety stuff. I think they're gonna slowly make some moves with guys like Whitehead. It seems like Quan's gonna sign back right now. So if you can sign Quan back. for a cheap contract, get rid of Whitehead and draft a safety, or bring in a Rodney McLeod and you have him and Tony Adams fight it out. I think the Jets are gonna fill quite a few holes.
And are we going
in the
to
next
trade
few
players
weeks to
on
get them to be
draft day?
excited.
Meaning, are we going to trade someone like a Corey Davis on draft day?
Dude,
and get
like,
someone
listen,
different?
at the end of the day, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm just excited. Like they
Oh,
went,
no, it's
they
good.
were
I
trying
like
to go for
excited
guys
Blewett.
like they're going for guys like Orlando Brown. They're going for guys like Odell Beckham. We signed Connor McGovern, which we'll talk about, for $2 million. We signed Quentin Jefferson for $3.5 million. It seems like they still have maneuverability to make a splash. I know people are going to say, they had $8 million. They signed McGovern. They brought Aaron Rodgers on. They don't really have a lot of room to maneuver, but earlier, a couple of weeks ago, there were some reports out there that the Jets can create over $40 million in cap space without even cutting people, just restructuring people. And then you add on to that $40 million. Okay, they cut Whitehead. Okay, maybe they cut Corey Davis, or they cut Dwayne Brown, whatever may happen. They restructure Lawson. They add years to Lawson's deal, whatever exactly is going to happen there. But I think the Jets have enough space to fill some holes with some players who were at least the caliber that they were equal to the caliber that they were last year. Again, filling a linebacker with a guy like Quan for $2 million. That's a big hole to be filled with only $2 million, though. I think it's good enough, kind of. It's kind of what I'm trying to say. And then safety, I think you could fill it for a decent price as well. I think the defense could be right back to the level it was last year, but it's not like you have to make massive investments to improve from last year. It's not like we have to invest into a Buda Baker to replace LaMarcus Joyner from last year, Kyle. Like, if we just get okay play from a safety, it's going to be a massive upgrade from last year. And I think you can get okay play from a safety in the 4th round. Maybe. Obviously, the safety class is a little bit thin, apparently, but why can't you get a Rodney McLeod for $2 million if Aaron Rodgers is here? And then Rodney McLeod playing okay is a lot better than Joyner. So I'm really excited to see how the Jets fill up the rest of the roster, because I think you add a couple of premium guys, maybe a first round, high investment first round pick, or maybe they do trade. Like, we have no idea what can still happen. If they were going for guys like Orlando Brown, Odell Beckham, all this stuff, who's to say they can't fit, again, in a year that you're going for it all?
DeAndre Hopkins.
Can't fit a DeAndre Hopkins? Who's to say you can't fit maybe they miss out on DeAndre Hopkins? They're like, okay, shit, we kind of, our plan A wasn't to go into the season with Corey Davis, but now we're going to do that, and then we're going to pour more investment into the defense. We tried on offense. It didn't work out with Odell. Okay, it didn't work out with DeAndre Hopkins. Fuck it. Let's go trade for Kevin Byard. And then it's like, now you have Kevin Byard, Sauce, and Reed in your secondary. It's like, holy shit, Aaron Rodgers have to score 10 points a game. So I still think there's going to be a splash move like that. And then I think some vets like Quan Alexanders and stuff are going to come in and fill up some of the starting spots in the roster. So I'm really excited to see the construction in the next couple of weeks. But the Jets start off slow in free agency, but I think with this Rodgers stuff, there's gonna be some dominoes to fall now. Connor McGovern, I think Q is gonna fall in the next couple of weeks to a month, whatever. I think there's gonna be some free agents who sign as well. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, I feel decently confident in another splash move, so to speak, like you just said, just because of the fact that, like, hey, listen, Douglas and Saleh are both desperate for wins. Woody Johnson's desperate for wins. They're desperate to end the playoff drought. Aaron Rodgers is saying that, like, he's all in. He's talking about the Lombardi Trophy. Okay, well, you got to make the move. Put your money where your mouth is. Look at what the Rams did. Getting a veteran quarterback in Stafford. Right. Look what the Buccaneers did. Those years with Brady. So I could definitely see one more splash move. And dude, we saw so many trades on round 1 draft night last year. Wouldn't be shocked. I mean, there's somebody in here talking about, should we trade Quinn into the Texans? I don't think that's going to happen, but
no.
But I mean, like, I guess crazier things have happened. Do you want to get
what would be the splash before that? What would be the splash you'd want to make? Like, could you see a Kevin Byard, or would you like? I know DeAndre Hopkins.
I don't think the Jets are going that direction. I don't think that they value safety that high to make a pick, to give away a pick, and to then also keep him at his current contract that he feels like he's worth.
Could you see a DeAndre Hopkins? I heard some tricklings of a Deontay Johnson, which I don't think that was from anywhere really reputable, but a Deontay Johnson type player from the Steelers. Obviously, the Jets. Like,
I can't see why the Steelers would want to get rid of him. You want to keep helping out your young quarterback. So that would be cool, though. We both like that player.
Because right now, Kyle, and there's been some reports that the Jets would want to keep Corey Davis, and I think with Corey Davis, like, let's say they're healthy and the Jets receiving core is Wilson, Davis, Lazard, Harbin. Okay, that's fine. The problem is, are they going to be healthy for 17 games? And based on history, they're not going to be. So I could see them being okay with it, with a little bit more risk, or saying, hey, let's get rid of Davis. Let's trade Davis. Let's recoup the $10 million and really, really solidify the receiving core. So I think there's a possibility that the Jets trade for a receiver. I think there's a possibility where if a guy like JSN falls to 15, and there's not the tackles that the Jets want on the board, maybe they draft the JSN, they get rid of Corey Davis, and you have a young, hopefully healthy player, even though he missed most of last year, I think, or the entire thing. But nonetheless,
the thing is, if you're going to trade for a player, it'd be easier to trade for a veteran receiver than it would be to trade for a veteran offensive lineman. So those are, and we're thinking it's probably going to be offensive line or maybe potentially receiver. Could even be defense too, depending on who slides and stuff. It's going to be interesting. How likely are the Jets to want to maybe move up, right? If we're talking about making a splash move, Jalen Carter falls a little bit. There were some rumors that the Jets might have interest in moving up to get him. Will Anderson, he was touted to be a surefire top 5 pick for like a couple of years or so now, at least one full year before he was eligible to get drafted. If he starts sliding out of the top 5, if he starts sliding near 10, Jets love edge rushers. They love pass rushers. He's not a guy who I watched a ton of because I didn't think it'd be realistic to get him. But, if you're talking about being aggressive and making splash moves, what's going to be like life after Carl Lawson, right? Imagine having two beasts on the edge, with him and then our boy Jermaine Johnson on the other side, which I call him our boy a little bit sarcastically, but there's definitely no doubt he's got potential there for sure.
Yeah, and I think general consensus is the Jets are going to, if anything, trade back because they want to recoup picks, but I wouldn't be I would lean more towards that side as well, Kyle. But realistically, with the Jets, maybe they're thinking, okay, maybe they stay put, or maybe I could see maybe a slight trade up. Like right now for the Jets roster, and we'll talk about I guess like hole by hole later and how to fill them, or whatever. But like right now they have 2 like true holes, and maybe even really one, because if you can argue tackle if you really want to. I think it's a true hole. Some people say, okay, with Brown, with Mitchell, with Becton, it's not a hole. I'll argue that it is a hole. But right now, past offensive tackle and defensive tackle, is there any starting spots the Jets like really, really need to fill? Now, obviously, linebacker and safety, but I don't know if you've seen Quan Alexander's Twitter recently, but he still has like the Jets has his profile picture. He's liking Jet stuff. Will Parks is tweeting at him like, "Where are you at?" He's like, "Oh, I'm nearby," and all that stuff. So it seems like Quan. Let's assume Quan is a done deal, Kyle. You need D tackle, offensive tackle, and safety. But again, safety to me, just like you did last year with Joyner, and he was a low investment. I think the Jets can invest in a 4th round guy or a veteran much farther down the road. So I think that's an easy spot to fill where D tackle isn't. Even though D tackle, I guess you could technically invest in Al Woods, but there's 2 positions where I see them really filling it with high investment or high capital: offensive tackle and defensive tackle. So let's say they are at 15 and it's a Skronsky or whatever, and they draft them, or Wright or whoever we're going to draft at 15. And then the Jets see their roster and say, okay, we only have one true hole on the roster at this point. And who's to say that at 40, they're at 43 now, and maybe a guy like they really like a Brian, not Brian Brees, he's going to play on the edge, but let's just say it's Mozzie Smith or Benton or whoever you guys like at defensive tackle, and they're at 34, 35. Could you see the Jets maybe flipping like a 4th or 5th round pick to lock in their last starter that they truly need? Because right now defensive tackle is a need, and people talk about Cansey, which I know you watched a little bit, but is he a little bit redundant with Quentin Jefferson? We can talk about that in the future, but could you see the Jets maybe getting aggressive? Again, signing a Quan, you fill that spot, you can figure out safety later, but your true big needs offensive tackle, defensive tackle, okay, maybe they trade up a little bit to secure that D tackle spot, because it's a huge hole on their defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, like, generally speaking, and this is something we say ad nauseum, that you don't want to draft based on needs, but if you feel like your roster is pretty solid all around, you have a couple decent holes at premium positions, of course you want to fill them. And if it's a guy who's just happens to be really high on your board, the Jets are obviously an aggressive. You can't get any more aggressive than what they were this week. Getting a 39-year-old quarterback and basically giving up a 1 and a 2 to get him, and paying him a huge contract on top of that. That is as aggressive as you can get. So I have no doubts that they certainly will be aggressive, I think. But would it be someone like him? I don't know if you want to talk about like him at all. Personally, I know that Luke Grant is higher on him than I was. And I remember speaking with him. The Cansey thing, it's interesting. He's super explosive. he kind of fits what Robert Saleh wants to do in terms of having a penetrating D tackle who can, I mean, the Jets run a decent amount of stunts. And I like him either as, a guy who's crashing in or whether he's looping because he does have good long speed. He can bend around the edge and things like that.
Yeah.
If he's just shooting one gap, he can get in there really quick. But, and some people might be making the Aaron Donald comparison just because short, 280 something, and they're both from Pittsburgh, but
he's like historically short arms. Like nobody's been
exactly
with how short his arms
they're not
are.
even 31 inches, if I'm not mistaken. Aaron Donald has 34-inch arms, and Aaron Donald's a lot stronger than this guy is too. This guy gets stuck. When if he doesn't clear a guy initially, they lock him up. So if I'm being honest, let's say the Jets even stay at 15, I'm not interested in taking Kancey. Truthfully, I'm not.
So we have to get into the chat too, but there's a lot. We're really kind of like naturally just flowing into some topics. So is there any other guys at 15 you really don't want? And Kancey, to me, at 15, I would understand it. Like I wouldn't be terribly mad with the pick, depending on who else is on the board, but it just gets a little bit redundant with a Quentin Jefferson. Because Quentin Jefferson, and I just, I did the review on him, or I'm going to do the review on him. I think he could be a little bit better than his numbers indicate. He was in Seattle, because he's not going to be two gapping as much here with the Jets. And I think as a penetrating role, he could be a little bit better as a run defender, but still, he's not a good run defender. Kalijah Kancey's people are talking about him in year one and maybe even year two, just being a specialized role as a pass rusher. So Quentin Jefferson, pass rusher, Kancey, pass rusher. So who is your run stuffer in that situation? But none past that, Kyle, is there anybody you want or you absolutely don't want at 15 who's realistic? I think we're assuming tackle right now, but if you had let's do a power ranking realistically, top 5 guys for 15. What are you thinking?
So for a while, I really wanted JSN at 13. But as I've been watching more of these guys, and I'm just thinking about what the Jets kind of need and what they have and, potential upside and stuff, the guy who I want, who is somewhat realistic, is Darnell Wright, Tennessee, who you were actually talking to me about. Yeah, I think, honestly,
over Skoronski and Johnson.
Well, I mean, I'm also kind of saying this I don't think that Skoronski is going to be there, and Paris Johnson, I'm hearing he's going to go at 3.
Okay, so Kyle, so give me a top 5 power ranking, somewhat realistic. Like obviously, there's a chance that Skoronski's there. There's a chance that Johnson's there.
Okay, well,
Will Anderson's not there. So give me top 5 somewhat realistic. Now, obviously, you could feel that Skoronski's not going to be there, but there's a chance that he could be there at 15.
There's a chance he can be there. Okay, so it's not like I put these guys on a power ranking yet, but I have general ideas of how I feel about them. Joe, do you honestly, you were just talking about AVT and stuff before and comparing how he was at tackle versus how he is at guard. Do we really think that Skoronski is going to play tackle at the next level? Because listen, if we draft Skoronski, he's not playing guard this year. He's not playing guard this year, right? You're not getting. There's no way you can play him over Lakin, considering Lakin's contract, and you're not playing him over AVT. So what are you going to do? You're going to put him at tackle, and then are you eventually going to move him to guard? Do you want to do that? So I
can only see them doing that with Skoronski. They let him fail at tackle this year, and I know they restructured Tomlinson's deal. I'm not sure how prohibited it is to get out of his deal next year. But could you see them drafting him? And maybe to me, he's like a solid double. I don't think he's ever going to be a great tackle. Yeah. I think he could be a decent tackle in year one. And then let's say he is struggling a little bit at tackle, or he's just okay, and they feel like he'd be really good at guard year 2 or year 3. You let him fail at tackle first, and then you replace him. Or you replace Tomlinson with him. So let's say, okay, he plays decent at tackle for the Jets. Let's say right tackle. He's okay. He holds the fort, but he's better than what we had last year. And then they get rid of Tomlinson next year, and now you have Skoronski at left guard, AVT at right guard, and they have to address tackle again next year. Like, is that a possibility? Because to me, Skoronski, he could maybe be a triple. Like let's say he does eventually move into guard and he's an all-pro guard. Okay, that's a triple, maybe even a home run pick. But to me, generally, he's just a solid double. He's not a home run. He's not a strikeout. He's just going to be okay this year. And maybe for the Jets, they want a guy who's just going to be okay because Johnson and Browder Jones might have the higher ceiling. But what if they don't hit their ceiling, immediately, and they're struggling year 1 and 2 when it really matters with Rodgers under center? What it's like the risk versus reward with a home run pick like Johnson or potential home run pick like Johnson versus the double like Skoronski in a year where you need to fill some holes.
Yeah, it's certainly tough. And if I'm being honest, I think I said this in a tweet a couple nights ago when I was replying to somebody, but out of the guys I watched so far, and I did watch more of Wright, I watched less Skoronski than Jones, Johnson, and Wright. Like I said, Wright is the guy who I kind of like most, but I'm also saying that I know he doesn't have as much upside as someone like Johnson or Broderick Jones. I mean, they have like 36-inch arms. Like we could try to act like length doesn't matter, and we try to, there are certain things that at the
Length always
combine,
matters, Kyle. Whatever they tell you, Kyle. Whatever.
It always matters.
Listen, we all got all those guys always think about length. Length, it matters, people.
It matters a lot. It matters more than like a 40-yard dash time does for a receiver. It really does, right? Like you see guys like DeAndre Hopkins 4.57, who's a beast. Mike Evans is like a 4.5 something guy, beast, right? They're talking two guys who could potentially maybe be Hall of Famers, right? Like length is more important than that in terms of offensive tackle. But Wright's tape is pretty darn clean. I liked what I saw, but I know that those guys do have potential more upside than him. Jones, he's a bit of a project. So, you draft him year one, you're Aaron Rodgers, your time window is a little bit limited. Do you want to wait on the project a little bit? So I don't know. I feel like, and I also like drafting. I don't know. Maybe it's a part of me that's a little bit of a bitch, so to speak, but I like guys with high floors, right? Like I remember years ago when I really first kind of started to get into the draft, they had Mike Mayock had his big conference call. And this is the first time that I was familiar with what these terms meant. And he was saying that Amari Cooper has the higher floor than Kevin White, but Kevin White has the higher ceiling. And to me, I was all Amari Cooper, man. If we could get either one of those guys all the way.
Me too.
So I kind of like guys that have higher floors, even though. So, but again, so I would put Wright. I think honestly, Joe, I think I'd have to put all the tackles over JSN. Truthfully, would you agree with that? Even though JSN, it's sexy, it's appealing, right? We're thinking about scoring touchdowns and things like this. But again, you also do have a 39-year-old quarterback that you have to protect.
Give me your top. Give me your five. Give me your five.
So this is just shooting right from the hip. Okay. I'll say Darnell Wright 1, Paris Johnson 2, Skoronski 3, Broderick Jones 4, JSN 5. All right, that's just me thinking right off the top of my head.
Yeah. I would say I think I want Skoronski at this point. I do. I'm okay with the double. So Skoronski 1. I would say Paris Johnson for the ceiling 2. Darnell Wright 3. Even though watching more Wright, I could be easily convinced on him at 1 or 2. To be completely honest, I would say 4 is JSN and 5 is Broderick Jones. Like I can convince myself if it's Broderick Jones and JSN on the board, okay, you draft JSN, you get rid of Corey Davis, you sign a Cam Fleming. Broderick Jones to me is just way too big of a project for this year for Aaron Rodgers based on what I've watched. And I would let's assume that it is, and we'll get into the chat again. I'm sorry, we're just it's just happening. So let's say it is a tackle there, Kyle. In the second round, what are you feeling? What do you think is going to happen? I think most people are kind of like chalk thinking that it's going to be a defensive tackle, but could you see it being a receiver, a linebacker, a safety? And it really becomes, and this is part of the problem with like mock drafts, it becomes really comfortable to fill holes. It's like I really want them to sign Quan just so I can think of that. Oh, they only have this many other holes, so maybe linebacker's filled. But do you think there's if it is a tackle in round 1, what are you feeling like? Maybe not like necessarily percentage wise, but what are you feeling like is going to happen in round 2?
So what you just said about people doing mock drafts and filling needs for teams, I'm going to give credit where credit's due because I don't always come up with these quotes and thoughts necessarily on my own. But when I like one that I agree with, I'm going to repurpose it and attribute to who properly gets credit. We know we shit on the organization, but he's actually no longer part of the organization. PFF Mike said something about like, when you got to think about the draft, you could think about need and stuff, but, he said like a need of today. Oh, damn, I'm screwing up the quote, but long story short, to me, paraphrase it, something that's a need right now or something that's a luxury right now, it could be a need in the future, right? So like, let's say
a luxury today is a need tomorrow or some shit like that.
Something like that. So like the point is that things change so quick in the NFL. Like you could think that the Jets are absolutely set at receiver. And we were kind of thinking that last year, right? We were not expecting Elijah Moore to have the drop off that he did, right? We were expecting Corey Davis to have a bit of a bounce back. right? Like, so, I mean, even look at what the Jets did at corner. Corner was obviously a huge need, but then they filled it. So, like the thing is like, draft the good players and it might not be a need for you in the future. So, just drafting based on need is anyway. Could they go linebacker? Absolutely, they could. I keep one guy I've seen mocked to the Jets is Campbell, and there's no doubt that the dude is a freak athlete. Apparently, he's been training with Luke Kuechly, which is pretty damn cool. Obviously, Kuechly's one of the best to ever do it.
Now, if they were to go Campbell, do you think they just pivot to an Al Woods in free agency, and are you comfortable with the now? You upgrade at linebacker, you upgrade at safety, maybe defensive tackle. It would be a downgrade with Woods and Quentin Jefferson, but with the other upgrades of the position, do you feel comfortable with the defense being in the same range as our defense last year with just an Al Woods coming to the Jets?
Yeah, I think so because there's even more room for Quentin improving. The thing about Al Woods versus someone like, we lost, why am I forgetting? We lost Shepard and we lost, what's the boy that came over to us from New Orleans who played for us for a couple of years? Why am I forgetting his name? Rankins. Yeah. So we lost both of them, but someone like Al Woods is going to be better in the run game than either of those guys, right? Like Shepard had some nice moments. He certainly improved a lot, but I viewed him more as a guy who was kind of like a penetrator pass rush guy than stuffing the run. He got moved easily in the run game. So I think that the defensive line could certainly be upgraded on the interior if you sign somebody like that. So yeah. And you got to, and the whole thing with like drafting somebody like Campbell is CJ Mosley's contract sucks. CJ Mosley is in decline. He's still a pretty good player. I know he got second team All Pro, which you could argue he might not have really deserved that, but put on the Bears tape last year. There's a couple examples in that game of whether it's David Montgomery beating him around the edge or some no-name running back where CJ Mosley just, the running back runs like a, so I almost want to say like he runs kind of like a juke route on, which, the Patriots made famous with guys like Julian Edelman and stuff on CJ Mosley, and CJ Mosley's recovery speed is just really slow. And then the running back gets a lot of space out to the flat and then turns up and ends up getting 20, 30 yards. CJ Mosley is losing a step despite the fact that he's lost weight and tries to stay in shape and things like that. So you have to plan for life beyond him. So right now, like your number one Mike linebacker is not necessarily a need right now, but going back to the quote that I fucked up saying before, your number one Mike linebacker might not be a need right now, but it might be a need next year. So I haven't really watched Bruce Campbell other than I was watching a little bit of Van Ness and he kind of just popped off the screen because the dude can really run. I'm not necessarily opposed to it if he is the right guy there.
Yeah. So past that, we grab a tackle. Let's say, D tackles it's filled by Al Woods. Do you see a possibility of receiver at 43?
Absolutely.
And at that point, what do you do with Corey Davis? Like, because if you draft a receiver, at that point, do you save the money on Corey Davis, cut him, and then you sign? You take the $10 million, you convert that into signing Quan and Al Woods.
I think there's a very strong possibility of that because you want to be deep that receiver. Teams run 11 personnel all the time. Sometimes
Would you
run
feel
10.
comfortable with that though, Kyle? Like let's say it's Josh Smith in round 2 at receiver. They cut Corey Davis. You have Wilson, who is obviously we feel like he's a solidified number 1, and he's going to be. Let's be realistic. But past that, you have a round 2 guy who we have no idea what he's going to be. You have McCole Harbin. You have Lazard. Is that really enough in a Super Bowl year? A round 2 guy being your number 2 or 3?
When your quarterback's Aaron Rodgers, I think it is. Because look at who Mahomes was thrown to this year at receiver, right? He had an elite guy, Travis Kelce, who's obviously a tight end, but then he's thrown to a bunch of Jag receivers, but he's one of the best to ever do it. Aaron Rodgers is obviously one of the best to ever do it, and he still has that guy. I mean, we're talking Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson could be legit elite receiver this year, top 5. Yeah. That wouldn't after the year he had with the quarterback play that he had.
For sure.
I don't think anyone's going to be really surprised if he's top 5 next year. I mean, this guy was the 10th overall pick for a reason. So you got that one elite guy. You got somebody who's already got a lot of chemistry with Rodgers and Lazard, who we admit is a Jag. McCole Hardman, he's been on some winning teams. He could have an expanded role. And if you're drafting a guy in round 2, he's an unknown. But if you're drafting him in round 2, early round 2, you expect him to be pretty good. So, I don't really want to get rid. I'd like to hang on to Corey Davis. But if I can get a draft pick and save $10.5 million on the cap, which I can use elsewhere, I'm not opposed to doing it. But I
I
do
guess
like Corey Davis. Though. But
I guess
go.
so sorry, yeah, to me, like I'm leaning more towards Davis just because you look at the top of the receiver draft, and again, this is just me being transparent. I haven't watched a lot of the receivers, but watching how or seeing how kind of thin the top of the class is, to me, it seems that if the top of the class is thin, how good are the guys in round 2 really going to be? So I rather just keep Davis because I think he'll be more reliable this year. But let's say it's kind of chalked to how I want it, Kyle. So the Jets draft a tackle, whoever that may be. Let's just say it's Darnell Wright at 15. They draft a defensive tackle in round 2, whoever that may be, that fills that hole. I'm hoping Quan signs back and McLeod signs back. So you have right there tackle filled, defensive tackle filled, linebacker, safety filled. What are the needs after those positions that you feel like the Jets might grab? Maybe obviously possibility in round 2, but rounds. I think they have what now? 1 round 4 and 2 round 5s. What are the next couple of needs at that spot? And obviously, we'll talk about the McGovern thing, which we can kind of trick. We could break that put that into here. McGovern signs. So that fills the center need, but is there a possibility at center, a Whippler or whoever it may be, or Jarrett Patterson in the 4th round? But is there any other kind of like secondary needs you see after? And again, to me, you fill tackle at 15, D tackle, 2nd round, sign back Quan, sign McLeod, and you're filling quite a few holes there. But after that, Kyle, what are you looking at in the later to mid rounds of the draft, or mid to later rounds of the draft?
That's a good question. So you're saying we filled D tackle. You're saying that
tackle.
You're saying that we signed McLeod, so we got a safety in the building. What else did we get?
So we signed Quan, we signed McLeod, we drafted the tackle, and we drafted Darnell Wright at 15.
Right, well, help me out here because I'm not seeing any like huge glaring needs. I mean, obviously you always want more depth, but like help me out. What do you think is the biggest?
To me,
it's interior offensive line, maybe.
No, so to me in that spot, okay, and this is very realistic again. Like people are going crazy about the price and stuff, but like again, in this situation, cut Whitehead, and Whitehead is the price of signing a Quan and a McLeod easily. So you could fill those holes, which is what I want to do. But in that spot, Kyle, I would say your next needs in my view, I like Corey Davis. And I think Corey Davis is an underrated Jet. I legitimately do. And Kyle, we know it's going to happen. Listen,
he is. The thing with him is health. Like he misses 4 or 5 games on average every year.
Exactly. So I'm comfortable with him playing. I'm comfortable with him, obviously, when he's on the field, but unfortunately, he hasn't been. But if people are mad, and you hear people talk about Davis, and it's like, oh, he's terrible, and then they'll refer to Lazard and Hardman. It's like, dude, if you're frustrated with his hands, you're going to be more frustrated with Lazard. You're going to be more frustrated with Hardman. And then people kind of underappreciate Corey Davis. And I hear people, on the other side saying that, okay, Lazard is comparable to Hines Ward as a blocker, but then you don't praise Davis. Like Corey Davis is a better blocker than Lazard is. So, So that's past funny. That point, Kyle, again, you fill all those holes like I want to, which again, I think is very easily doable with some of the contracts the Jets are getting at this point. I would say keeping Davis is my preferred option. And then I think wide receiver 5 becomes, obviously, again, it's a secondary need. We're talking about wide receiver 5 here, but it becomes a bigger need than some think. Because if Davis goes down, if Lazard goes down, are we comfortable with Hardman being the 3? And then what if Hardman goes down as well? So I think
Hardman missed a lot of time last year. So
in that 4th round, if you were able to grab a wide receiver 5, I think that would be a hole to fill. And then developmental guy. And then obviously, I don't know if you heard this today, Kyle, but Ty Johnson got released with a non-football injury designation. Mm-hmm. So I think in that 4th round, like let's say 4th, I think it's what 4th, 5th, 5th. Again, hole filling here. I know that's what I'm doing, but if you can grab in those 3 spots, a receiver, a running back, and then, I don't know, maybe a center, a developmental center, I would be really ecstatic with that.
Yeah. And apparently the Jets had about 4 or 5 top 30 visits that were running backs. So that the Jets are looking to draft a running back. And I've said for so many years now doing streams with you that I think you should draft one every year just because, the tread on their tires, it goes away quickly. Yeah, so I think we're pretty much in agreement there. Like you always want to have a lot of receivers and stuff, just because of just, keeping guys fresh and, personnel packages, getting guys in and out of the lineup. And then obviously, to account for injuries too. And then running back, you want to keep young, fresh guys in there. You don't want to have old running backs. So yeah, I think we're in agreement there. We got a couple super chats. Do you want to get to them?
Yeah. So I have 2.
He gave us another one. He gave it quite a while ago. I just trying to find a way to work it in.
Yeah. Pull those up, and then we have 2 more topics we kind of skimmed over, and we're gonna get to the chat for the rest of the time. I just want to get to some of the topics. So, AP14, appreciate the 550 Canadian. What do you think about the pick swap? We slide behind 2 teams that have similar needs to us, and those top 3 offensive linemen will probably be gone. Well, to me, it's top 4 offensive linemen. I can understand 5. I can understand the Broderick Jones. It's 5 with Broderick Jones, right? Any really one of the top 4 guys I'd be happy with. And really, when you look at it, when you have at least 2 or 3 edge rushers that are going to go, you have at least 2 or 3 corners that are going to go, you have at least 3 or 4 quarterbacks that are going to go, you have Jalen Carter who's going to go. So the chance that all 4 offensive linemen are gone, Kyle, to me is it's kind of small, and it seems like the top of the draft isn't so strong. So dropping from 13 to 15 is not really that big of a slide to me. I think it's about the equivalent of a 3rd round pick. So if that's what got the deal over the edge, I'm not going to lose my shit about it. And yeah, they moved down 2 spots there. They also move up 30 spots, from the 6th round to the 5th round too. So something to think about. But that wouldn't have been like a deal cancer for me. It's only 2 spots, and I severely doubt all 4 guys.
I don't think Joe Douglas makes this deal if he has a huge disparity between his top 13 on his big board versus his top 15 on his big board. So, I think
that's what he said in his press conference. And I want to
exactly.
watch some of the other stuff. He said we had to have 13 guys we like that 13. Now we have to have 15 guys we like at 15.
And then he reinforced that we do have 15 guys that we feel real confident in. So
yeah, and with Carter, with Wilson, with
you
Anderson,
expect four quarterbacks to go. You expect 4 quarterbacks to go before then, right?
Now, Kyle, so I want to throw this hypothetical out there really quickly. This is with no other information present to you right now. If at 15, I told you would you rather have 3 or 4 quarterbacks taken by our pick? Obviously, if it's 4, okay, that's obviously another player that gets pushed down. Or would you rather take the risk and have, maybe one of those players not slide down, but that 4th quarterback is the quarterback that the team's going to trade up for? Like if I had to tell you in a vacuum right now, hey, all 4 go before us, and that gives us a better shot. The guy slides down, or hey, better opportunity for a trade down. If you had to pick one right now, what would you choose?
That's a good question.
Try to ask him every once in a while.
Oh, damn. I didn't really consider that at spot 15, just because it seems like all these guys are going to go before 15. So I don't really know that you're really going to have that option to trade down.
Yeah.
The trade down always seems like the good, sexy option. And we've been talking about that for so many years with the Jets, but when have the Jets really traded down? I mean, like they trade up quite a bit. We traded up to get Jermaine Johnson last year, but I can't think of us trading back in the 1st round and acquiring extra picks. I almost want to say for this year, like you feel like the Jets don't have too many really glaring needs, and you'd want like one really, really, really solid starter that you feel confident with. And I feel like I'd almost feel more comfortable standing at 15 and just getting the guy who particularly could probably be a tackle and just, protect Aaron Rodgers and just feel good about that.
I think that's the easier answer, and I think that's the right answer, Kyle. And it obviously depends on how many picks they slide back. Like there's a big difference between sliding back to 25 and to 19, because great, you trade down a couple of spots, but what happens if you have your 4 tackles and then all 4 are gone, and you have a major gap between tackle 4 and tackle 5, and now you're, like you said, you're filling a big hole, or potentially big hole, with kind of like a secondary investment kind of there. So that's something you want to do. Like you want to fill your holes with with premium capital is what I'm trying to say there. So but no, I think top 4, any one of the tackles of Johnson, Skoronski, Wright, I'm going to be, did I miss one? Skoronski, Johnson, Wright.
I think we got to start. I think we should call Skoronski a guard, truthfully. Really? I think that's how most teams are going to view him on their boards. He's got AVT. He's got AVT length arms.
I think he goes before the Jets anyway. I really think that if I had to bet right now, who it's going to be, I think it's going to be one of Broderick Jones or Wright. And to me, I'm personally rooting for Darnell Wright at 15 at this point. That's assuming that Johnson and Skoronski are gone.
That's pretty much how I feel too. I feel like Johnson, just because, he's big, he's tall, he's got the long arms, he's got the good footwork. Everyone was raving about how he was taking pass sets and stuff.
I've had some problems with his feet though. I'm not as chalky with his feet.
I agree. I agree, but just like the potential's there. Like he's clearly like an athlete. And Broderick Jones is also an athlete too. I'm telling you, Broderick Jones in space, man, when he gets in space, he's very controlled. He knows when to slow down at the right time and really center a guy up and not miss them. He's good in space. He's a good athlete too, but his feet work are really clunky as well, at least at this point. But I think there is definitely something to he improved and got better as the season went on. But Darnell Wright seems like the most realistic option there, and I do like him. I mean, like I probably watched about 4 or so of his games, and there's only really one rep that's standing out to me where he was kind of beaten by some LSU defender, not Ojulari, but somebody else. But other than that, he's pretty damn dominant. Do you want to get to the other super chat that we got?
Yeah, and the only other thing I could see, I could see Kancey. I could see a world where, okay, the Jets fill D tackle with Al Woods, they draft JSN at 15, and then maybe they trade up a little. Like I think there's a possibility. Okay, Woods is signed post draft. So is Quan, and at 15 you have JSN. And what's to say they don't trade up a couple of spots for Anton Harrison at tackle or one of these guys? So I think that's a possibility. But right now I'm like 85% sure it's going to be a tackle at 15. But no skills. Appreciate the $10 super chat. Problems with Google Pay for months, but it seems I'm back. I guess getting a Hall of Fame quarterback fixes even payment issues. Planning to come see a home game from Finland, or will it be hopeless to get tickets? No, you can get tickets now, no skills, but you better get them ASAP. And I am a season ticket holder, and I am glad I paid for my season tickets before the price rose, because it's going to rise quite a bit right now.
When did you decide to become a season ticket holder? Because you used to be when I first met you, but then you weren't for a couple of years. So when did you do it again?
I did it I guess like a couple of weeks ago. I'm sitting with Tom and the other kid who Freck. I don't know if you remember. You remember Freck? He's the chubbier kid who we go to the games with. Hopefully he's not watching. He knows he's chubby. You gotta admit it. It's okay. I'm sitting with them, so that's gonna be pretty. I'm so fucking ready to watch him run out of the tunnel, dude. I'm gonna lose my shit. And I again, if it's an away game, I hope it's Dallas. I'm going to Dallas, and I'm really excited to see the schedule come out, because I'm going to Dallas. Unless it's for Thanksgiving, I might be shit out of luck there. So I'm really, really hoping the Jets.
Why do you have to work on Thanksgiving?
It's just it's a hard time to get away, with work and all of that stuff. And I'm already going away for 4th of July weekend. So going away 4th of July weekend, Thanksgiving weekend is just not necessarily the best look. So
well, listen, I mean, we're talking about the Jets getting but they don't consider. Do they consider Thanksgiving a primetime game? I mean, it's not and Dallas always plays. Dallas always plays the mid game. So
okay.
I don't know if that would be considered. Okay. If it's one of our primetime games, Dallas always plays on Thanksgiving. So I guess there's a chance of that.
I'm excited for even 4:00 games. Like the Jets are gonna have more 4:00 games most likely as well. And that's my favorite time to I love the night games. I love the 1:00 games.
I don't know if they're gonna love 4:00 games. I mean, like when they're away, they get 4:00 games anyway. If they're on the West Coast, it's always gonna be a 4:00 game. I don't think.
Yeah, I prefer.
They're not gonna play a 4:00 game at MetLife.
I prefer 4:00 games if they're able to get more of them somehow, because I love going to getting a couple of hours of sleep, and your first shotgun being at 12 o'clock versus 8 o'clock is a lot easier. And with that, it's so much better when you're tailgating and you're able to. You said you can't wait. Is that what you just said?
I said I can't relate. I don't.
Oh, I can't relate.
I feel bad for you sometimes, man. Like you were struggling that one morning, the Patriots game, the second Patriots game. You're like, yeah, man. We had a party the night before. I'm feeling it right now.
Oh, that was right after Halloween. That was right after Halloween. We had a Halloween party. Then the next day was the game, and I got to bed. Yeah, that was a rough one.
And you were, you were always like, you always talk and listen. You do back it up. You back it up. I'll give you that. But you always do this macho talk, like, yeah, man, 8 o'clock, we're taking a shot. That's how we do it. If you come over, you better do it. But you're like, yeah, I might wait a little bit for this one, man.
Yeah, no, it's tough to shotgun a beer at 8 o'clock in the morning when you're hungover. But nonetheless, so Kyle, do we have any more super chats before we get to? And by the way, no skills. If you're coming, let us know. I'm sure there's gonna be some type of meetup, whatever it may be, with Jets YouTubers or whatever. Which I might pop by for. But if you're going to a game and you need a spot,
just to stick on this topic for one quick second. I remember when the Knicks, and I know that, dude, I was trying to look for playoff games for Knicks tickets, man, and geez, I had no idea how expensive they would be. One of the reasons I don't like basketball as much. But I remember when the Knicks traded for Carmelo Anthony 10 or whatever years ago, how much the prices of Knicks tickets just skyrocketed overnight. I wonder, and this is football, I know it's different. I wonder how much the Aaron Rodgers effect has on ticket prices for Jets.
It's gonna rise. It's gonna
but I'm wondering how much though is my question.
I don't know. I feel like Woody Johnson, if anything, should pay back like some of the loyalty to his fans. Like just keep the prices the same. They're already kind of high. We've been watching some shit football for quite a while. We already pay $10 or $12 for a hot dog. Like let's be easy on the hike raise. or the Rays. Because like, listen, you're arguing how much more money they're going to make just on jersey sales and merchandising right now. Do you really have to raise the ticket prices? Does it really affect them that much? I don't know. But Kyle, 2 topics we kind of skimmed over a little bit, and we'll get into the chat. I'm so sorry.
Joe,
for
I'm
being
gonna
so late to
run
it,
get some water real quick. I'll be back
Okay.
in a split second. I don't think
start
that we
saying
have
hi to
any
the
more
chat.
super chats. Yeah, I don't think we
Okay,
have any
cool.
more super. So go ahead.
I'll start saying hello to the chat, and then we'll get into some of the other topics. NY Jet Superfan, yeah, buddy, can't wait. What is up, NY Jet Superfan? Super Bowl, here we come from Chris. Love that you selected Darnell Wright as the heading. That's the guy I want at 15. I think that's kind of where I'm leaning towards as well, just assuming that some other guys are going to be gone. I think Darnell Wright versus Broderick Jones may be the option, and I'm rooting for Darnell Wright in that scenario. Eagle Fang says Aaron Rodgers' awareness blew me away at the presser. He knows what he's walking into, and even pointed it at Woody Johnson after not shaking his hand after he was reading his scripts.
That was good.
AR8.
That was good, and then the whole Zach Wilson comment was really good too.
Hold on. What did he?
Yeah, so
he
like
pointed at Woody Johnson after not shaking his hand.
Yeah, so Woody gets up at the beginning of the press conference, addresses all the media before Aaron speaks, and then Woody's walking away, and Aaron says something like, "Hey, you didn't shake my hand," and it was just like it's like, like those could be like a tense situation. Like imagine, obviously Rodgers is somewhat an abrasive, especially with all the COVID vaccine crap. He's had a bit of an abrasive relationship at times with the media. So like just to start off the press conference, like it's tense. He doesn't know these reporters and stuff yet. It was a good way to get everyone in the room laughing and get him on his side. That was a smart move, man. And the Zach Wilson comment too about like how Zach Wilson said months ago, whoever they bring in, I'm gonna make his life in practice hell. And then Aaron Rodgers like, yeah, I'm gonna make his life heaven off the field.
Which sounds a little bit conspicuous there. Make his life heaven off the field. It's kind of like, what are you gonna do from off the field, my guy? But I don't know. You had media members after he liked the comment about Zach Wilson making his life hell, like, oh, is there already a problem in New York? It's like, shut the fuck, like, shut up.
Who said that? Who said that?
There's people on Twitter. You can just assume whoever it is. There's people on Twitter who are responding to that.
Major media head said something.
No. So some of the just I want to highlight these things before we get into the rest of the chats, which we're gonna do for quite a bit after we get to these topics. But Kyle, something we kind of glossed over. What do you think about Connor McGovern, dude? Because I saw he was signed yesterday in the morning. I was really excited. I was assuming, okay, he was playing with the Jets about $9-10 million a year. The center market has dwindled a little bit this season, but I still assumed he would get about $5 to $6, $7, maybe $7 million in free agency. He signs with the Jets, and I'm excited. Listen, gives the Jets awesome flexibility in the second round. You could draft a D tackle. You could not. You could sign an Al Woods. You could draft a center there now. You can not. And especially considering like as soon as he signs, people are like, oh no shit. You can't draft a center. But if he got signed for $1.9 million, you could still be. He could be the starter at 1.9 because I think he's an average guy, or he could be great depth. Like, how the hell is Connor McGovern getting paid $1.9 million and Schweitzer is getting paid more than him? Like, McGovern is great depth and gives you great flexibility in the second round. I can easily see him starting. I can easily see him being depth. And maybe, Kyle, there's a world where, let's say they draft a JMS in the second round and he starts over McGovern. McGovern's played guard before. What if McGovern plays for Laken Tomlinson at left guard? Is there a possibility of that? So I love the flexibility it gives them, and $1.9 million for what I feel is an average starter or elite depth is an amazing pricing. We were paying Ben Ajalon at $6.5 million a couple of years ago. Now we're paying Connor McGovern $2 million to be our backup. Even if it's a backup.
Dude, Mike McCagnon was so bad with the offensive line, man. It is truly amazing how bad he was. You and I could have truly done a better job in regards to offensive line for sure. Yeah, so I was really shocked. I remember seeing the news when I was at school and I was talking to one of the Jets fans, Anthony, who pops in the chat from time to time. And I was like, yeah, Connor McGovern re-signed. And he's like, oh, yeah, really? He's like, oh, that's cool. And honestly, I was one of the bigger I defended Connor McGovern so many times on streams over the years saying, hey, listen, if you think this guy's bad, I don't know what to tell you. Now, some of them might be saying, oh, well, if he's so good as you're saying, why did he get so little? I'm just saying, like, listen, just put on his tape and show me where he's consistently bad. But to get him for that number is clearly a steal. I mean, apparently the word on the street is that the Jets were expecting him to get a decent amount of money elsewhere, and the market never really materialized for him. And I don't know why. And going back to the whole quote that I butchered before, about okay, you expect Connor McGovern to be the starter this year, being that he re-signed. But it's a 1-year deal. If he's not 30 this year, he's going to be close to it. I think he's going to be 30, 31 this year. It's not necessarily a need right now for this year, but again, I'm not opposed to taking a center like John Michael Schmitz early in the second round because it very well could be a need next year. So, and that's what the Eagles do. And Joe Douglas came from the Eagles, and dude, so obviously the Eagles have one of the best offensive lines in the league. And then they drafted, I'm forgetting that kid's name they drafted last year. But dude, was it Ross Tucker? Ross Tucker could not stop. Is it Cam Jurgens? I think it's Cam Jurgens. He could not stop talking about him in that preseason game. Oh my God, he's so good. He's so good. But that guy barely even played last year because of who the Eagles had. But they're preparing for him to eventually, I think, be Jason Kelsey's successor. So the Eagles are one of those teams that, like, listen, they're good on the offensive line year in, year out. But in order to do that, you gotta prepare for it. Like, you have to have a plan set in place, like the Packers do with quarterback, for who's going to be the guy in the future. So Joe Douglas has said for years, even in his press conference with Rex Hogan the other day, when they had the kid who's going to be announcing the pick, what's his name, Kyle or something. That's pretty cool that he's going to be announcing the pick. But the kid was saying, like, hey, listen, I think that we're probably going to take an offensive lineman. He named a couple names, and Joe Douglas was like, yeah, I like that blue plan. It's a good plan to draft, be strong on offensive and defensive line. Joe Douglas has always talked about being strong there, but we haven't necessarily seen it yet. But in order to keep doing that, you're going to have to keep drafting premium assets to do that. And so I could definitely see that happening early in the second round. Sorry,
either way,
long-winded answer.
It's either way. It's either $1.9 million and you're filling a hole with low capital. But again, you're getting an average player for a really, really low price. So either that's a great way to fill a hole as a starter, or it gives you great flexibility in the draft. Like, hey, if you like Mozzie Smith there in the second round, he's there, great, grab him, because you have that center now. But if he's not there, and you like JMS, you like Whippler, you like whoever it may be in round 2, then guess what? $2 million or paying Connor McGovern $1.9 million is not prohibitive to drafting a center. So it gives you really, really great flexibility. And again, just paying a very low price, almost veteran minimum, to a guy who is an average level starter to me on the offensive line is awesome. So I was really, really excited to see that. Connor McGovern is back under contract for the Jets. And then past that, Kyle, Quan Alexander, it seems like it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to sign with the Jets. So if he fills that linebacker role, again, that's another hole plugged, which is great, because I was talking about some possibilities in terms of the Jets linebacker room, because Whitehead's still on the roster. If it wasn't Quan Alexander, could you see a way where, one of Whitehead or Clark is that nickel backer, that dime backer? They're playing that third linebacker role. The other guy's playing strong safety. Maybe a Tony Adams or McLeod is playing free safety. Could you see that possibility? Or and then with that, what do you think about Quan just potentially being back and filling that linebacker role where you have the 3 starting linebackers return this year?
Well, regarding your question about Clark and where they want to play him, I guess they kind of view him as a chess piece that, based on who you have playing and suiting up on any given week due to injuries and stuff, he might be a guy who could play at various different positions. You watched a lot more of him than I did. The one or so game that I watched of him, he pretty much was playing deep safety most games. So, but I know you've spoken highly, and I'm curious to see your film review of him, that he plays really well in the box, which I didn't see a lot of it. So I don't know. I mean, like, I like having a guy like him on the roster because he is quite flexible. I'm trying to remember the other part of your question though. You mentioned him. Who else did you mention?
Well, it was Whitehead. It was Whitehead playing the strong safety role, and to me, all right.
So to the answer to that question, I don't want Whitehead on the roster for the number he's getting anyway. I just don't. I don't think he's worth that value. But I think the closer you get him to the line of scrimmage, the better he is.
But you save what, $7.5 million with Whitehead? Yeah. Like right now, and it's very easy. It's very doable. You cut Whitehead, you save that $7.5 million. What is Al Woods going to command, Kyle? $3-4 million. What is McLeod going to command? $3-4 million. So Quan's going to cost you probably $2-3 million, and McLeod's going to cost you $2 or $3 million. So you're filling the Whitehead. You're getting rid of Whitehead and filling 2 spots instead of being redundant at strong safety. So that's a move that I think they have to do, and I'm really, really hoping they do. And Quan getting signed at linebacker indicates to me that they're going to get rid of Whitehead. I just don't see Clark being the free safety for this team. I view him more as a box guy. I think he's solid in a strong safety role. Man coverage, intermediate zone, short zone is really good. You start asking him to play deep a little bit more. He's not as comfortable. So I don't see the Jets free safety being on the roster unless the Jets want to get rid of Whitehead, all that stuff. They don't have to sign McLeod. Maybe who's to say they don't draft the guy in the 4th round who's a developmental free safety and you have him and Tony Adams compete it out. That's a possibility. You could always add a free safety later on in camp, because at the end of the day, it's not, you're not replacing Jesse Bates. You're replacing LaMarcus Joyner. You can do that pretty much for a vet minimum contract. So it's interesting, but I'm just hoping Whitehead's not on the roster. I just don't see it as worth it at this point.
Totally agree.
But
I mean, honestly, I really don't really see him. I don't really see any redeeming aspects of his game. Like what to you makes you say, oh yeah, I want Jordan Whitehead on my team. What do you want him for? The occasional big hit? In that first Miami Dolphins game, the one at MetLife Stadium, he had a couple, bangers, hits. But I mean, if we're being honest, the amount of times where he, geared up to hit somebody and then just whiffed, and like Ramondre Stevenson had his, he was Ramondre Stevenson's bitch last year in both games.
Raheem Mostert bitched him too, didn't he?
Mostert? Oh yeah. Definitely in Miami, Mostert bitched the shit out of him, and he might have even Mostert had a good game in MetLife Stadium too. So yeah.
Whitehead to me is like, you could say the hitting, but the hitting is also at the negative of him missing tackles. So it's not even really a true positive, because it's not, it comes with
and him in coverage, he might have had like 2-3 interceptions on the year or whatever, but trust me, they were nothing special. I mean, the one Josh Allen, how did Josh Allen not see him there? I don't know. And then like the ones, I think he had one, maybe 2 in Pittsburgh. I mean, it just really just dropped into his lap. It wasn't anything really special.
He dropped a ton of picks. His coverage is terrible. He's bad. He's a bad player. Just get him off my team at the end of the day. So we're celebration stream now, as Eagle says, and then draft tomorrow. Wide receiver, tight end, offensive line. Give me offense in the first round. I'm not taking tight end in the first round. Is all I ask. You get Aaron Rodgers. You go all in with offense and take care of Quinn Williams. He deserves. Yeah. Quinn Williams, what do you think with that one, Kyle? We saw him, I think Joe Douglas said something to the effect of like they're
optimistic. And then Quinn Williams quote tweeted it with the gif of him sipping the tea.
So what are your thoughts on Quinn Williams? I still think the price is going to be right around $24-25 million. I know. I think you said it might be a little bit higher than that.
I thought it was going to be higher. Yeah, I think
it's 20. I think it's 24-25 based on some of the other contracts, because what's his name just got paid. It was like 23. So I think just a little bit over that is going to be fine for. I think because he liked to tweet saying that it was like $26 million a year. I think you can get Q for a clean 5 for 125 or 4 for 100. I think that's what it's going to be at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think I pretty much agree with you. And here's my thoughts about like what the contract numbers are going to be. I think Jason from Over the Cap has done a lot of good work over the years in showing a very strong correlation between how high a guy is drafted and what their second contract and ultimately ends up being. And this is one of the reasons why I was talking to Giants fans. I was like, hey, listen, if you think that you're going to get Daniel Jones for like way under $40 million a year, you're wrong. And if I'm not mistaken, and I was telling last thing, I think it's going to be 40 mil, even though Daniel Jones for the vast majority of his career was quite underwhelming, but they did draft him 6th overall, right? Like, so teams like there's a very strong correlation between how high you're drafted, and regardless of how most of your career has gone, even if you have like one good year towards the end of your rookie deal, it oftentimes leads to you getting a big payday. So Quinnen Williams was obviously drafted a lot higher than Simmons. Quinnen was 3rd overall, but Simmons was like 19 or something like that. So it makes sense just from that standpoint that Quinnen would get more. But at the same time, I also think that Simmons has been consistently better over the 3-4 years that they played in the league, 2019 draft class. But I think you'd also have to say that Quinnen was better last year, and he's finally starting to really settle into what you thought he could be. So I do think that Quinnen will get higher than him. I just don't think it will be that much higher. So when you say that Simmons got 23.5 annually, whatever it is, Quinnen getting 25, I could definitely see that. I was thinking it was going to be over 25, but once I saw Simmons numbers, I don't think it's going to be much higher than that. So
yeah, I'm hoping they lock him down before it becomes a distraction, and you're hoping that him quote tweeting with the Kermit the Frog thing, him sipping the tea, but it's Quinnen Williams. You're hoping that he's not quote tweeting like saying like, oh, we're not close. Hopefully it's more like, hey, yeah, we are close deal, but we'll see what happens with that. But I'm very, very faithful that Quinn Williams is going to be here for the long term. Curly Norman, what's up? Nick Allen says, kept catching myself smiling throughout the presser. Yeah, I was, again, like a little kid. Eagle says, to finish my comment with Aaron Rodgers presser, the tone was set today. It's championship or butt. Eagle's a little bit volatile sometimes. I think it was a couple weeks ago, like when we weren't trading for Rodgers. Like at this point, just move on. Who cares? It can't be held hostage. I'm like, Eagle, we've been waiting this long. Let's just wait another week or two. Like, but like it's not gonna, a week or two is not gonna kill us. And Eagle started to bug out a little bit at the end there. So Mike says, aren't we all glad we didn't sign Derek Carr now? Yeah, and Kyle, the stance that we both took, and I don't want to put too many words in your mouth here, but we liked Aaron Rodgers over Carr every single day of the week. The difference was signing Carr with the possibility of Rodgers just retiring or playing for the Packers. Carr was the safer option, but in a vacuum, Carr versus Rodgers, we all wanted Rodgers. So yeah, at this point, we're happy. You know, if you could have told me in February 1st, you're going to land Rodgers, don't worry about it. I would say, okay, Rodgers over Carr all day. But I was at first Carr because I didn't think Rodgers was a real possibility, or at least a strong possibility. So,
and my initial thoughts about the whole I'm talking about very initial thoughts when it seemed actually quite realistic that you could actually make a trade for him was, I was thinking it might cost you 2 first-round picks, which wasn't quite that. It's probably going to be a 1 and a 2, which is not quite that. But then also I was thinking there's a strong possibility he might only play a year. Now it seems like it's going to be probably 2 years.
Yeah.
And now he's talking about participating in off-season activities and stuff too. So yeah. I mean, I guess, but I don't know. I guess it really kind of did come together, and it's looking quite good right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, honestly, like, you know, if we had Carr right now and still had all these assets, I guess I'd still be pretty excited. But to answer your, it was Mike who said that, right? To answer your question, Mike, yeah, I'm kind of happy at this moment right now. I'm kind of happy we didn't sign Carr.
Something that's not mentioned so much when we talk about Rodgers is the impact on defense, Kyle. But Eagle says defense will take the hit at the cost of making the offense much better. But with it being said, something that people don't really think about is how much is Aaron Rodgers going to help the defense? Like how much is us being up in a game going to allow our defensive front
start putting Bryce Huff on the field more and letting him
start putting Bryce Huff on the field more, getting more sacks, creating more turnovers because teams are actually throw the ball against the Jets. So just the offense being more productive is going to keep the defense more rested and put them in better position.
Throw 40 times a game against Sauce Gardner. Do it.
Yeah. Exactly. And Quinn Williams and all the guys blitzing. So it's going to put them in much better position to make plays. So it's a big help for the defense, even without necessarily like adding players or whatever. So I'm excited about it. Steven, what's going on? What's going on to you? Very obviously exciting times for Jets fans. Rejoice now. We've been watching so many shitty quarterbacks, Kyle, from Petty to Hackenberg, never even take a snap. We were literally watching him at practice. Like, bro, I hit that pass 12 deep at MetLife. And it's legitimately true. Like there was passes he was bouncing from 10 yards when they were just like lackadaisically throwing the ball around. It was embarrassing. That Greg McElroy, the whole, Darnold thing and Zach Wilson and fucking Adam Gase. Now we're sitting here with Aaron fucking Rodgers going to be a Jet, which by the way, I don't know if I brought this up, Kyle, the whole 12 versus 8 thing. What do you think? A little bit of class from Aaron Rodgers saying that 12 is always going to be, Broadway Joe. He's gonna wear, his old Cal number. Number 8 for the Jets. What are your thoughts on that? And it's almost like kind of perfect because if you obviously you don't just know my Twitter header off the top of your head, but my Twitter header is me and Elijah Moore jersey at Soldier Field. So it almost looks like I'm wearing an Aaron Rodgers Jets jersey at Soldier Field where he owns the Bears. So it's kind of perfect. So I don't know if people know a legitimate person who could like take out the stitching and put in Rodgers. Like it'll cost me like $15-20 on that jersey, or if I'm just going to put duct tape with Rodgers over it. But if I could pay $20 to have somebody, redo the stitching,
I think is worth it. I mean, what's the price for a whole new one? $150 or something like that?
Yeah, well, I would buy it, Chinese and get it for like $35-40. But if anybody knows like a legitimate person to stitch it up or whatever, how I can do that, I've never really looked into it. Let me know because it would be cool to repurpose my Elijah Moore jersey and not have to miss out on that. But I'll be rocking an 8 jersey. But overall, what are your thoughts on the number 8 for Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, I think I like it actually because my natural instinct is to like single digits better. That's why Garrett Wilson, dude, he said he's going to play 17 one more year and then switch to 5. Switch to 5 now. What are you doing, man?
So the only thing I'm not sure exactly what the actual like how it works out with this, but apparently if you switch your number, like you have to do some buyback program or something like that. Like he has to pay something out of pocket to change his number that quickly or some shit. And people are thinking that, okay, with him not doing that this year, people are thinking that they're going to change their jerseys in 2024. So, but I'm with you. Like me, I'm a very impatient person. So to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to play in 17 this year, wait for 5 a whole year down the road, I could never do that. I'm just not the type of person. So, yeah, I would like to see him in 5 as well. But yeah, Rodgers and 8, I'm okay with it. I think he's more of like a double-digit type of looking quarterback, but I'm okay with him in 8. And I know there's people that say,
you get used to it. You just get used to it. Like we know him as 12, and he's been so good in the number 12. So it's like, okay, yeah, there's a part of you that might want that, but
there's people out there, Kyle, would be like the piss in my Cheerios type people, or who cares about jerseys as long as they're winning? I don't care. Like I'm a big aesthetics guy. I like jerseys. I like numbers. I like all that stuff. I feel like people who, and I've always said this, I feel like people who don't like jerseys and the aesthetics didn't really play a lot of sports. I feel like a lot of people who I know who played sports, a lot of people who played football with, basketball with, whatever, all love jerseys and love numbers and all this stuff. And then you have the people who don't play sports, like, who cares? Just win. It's like, okay, I get that point, but you still want them to look sexy while they're winning, So
I mean, go back to the whole Deion Sanders quote, man. You look good, you play good, whatever that whole thing is. I tell you this, my senior year, we got brand new football jerseys for the whole entire team, and they were like fully stitched, new logo and everything. It looked so much better than what we had before. Everyone had like the way that we had it previously was like, if you paid to buy your own jersey, you could get your nameplate on the back and choose your number. But some kids didn't really care that much. So you had some kids with their name on the back my junior year, and some kids that didn't. And it looked, from an aesthetic standpoint, it didn't look great. It's like, oh, some kids have their names, some don't. But then my senior year, everyone had the name and stuff. And it just looked so much better. And I'm not saying there's really a correlation here or anything, but my senior year, we did have a really good season. We went to the state final game because there's like a gazillion,
1,000 of them.
New Jersey. Yeah. Anyway, but we played in Giant Stadium. We lost, unfortunately. But I remember one of the kids who was like really into jerseys and stuff. He's one of these kids who had like all these different NFL jerseys, authentic and stuff. He's like, man, I feel like, one of the reasons we're so good this year is we got these authentic jerseys, these stitched jerseys this year. I'm like, okay, yeah. But it was pretty darn cool. So like,
what number were you? Were you like a 7? I think you're like a 70s guy, like a 75, like some random.
All right. I'm gonna give you a hint. So back in the day, and this is before I started following the Jets super duper duper closely. Don't look in the chat, Joe. Don't look in the chat.
I'm waiting. I'm like an hour and a half behind.
Okay. My favorite player was Jonathan Vilma. So what was my number?
51.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I know Vilma. I know Vilma. So Tay with it.
Wait, we got a super chat. We got a super chat first. So we got to prioritize them. We got it from our boy Jan. He says, "Rodgers here. I'm back. Draft week. What's up, boys? $20. Thank you so much, Jan."
Yeah, Jan, we've missed you. I'm excited to talk. I'm excited to be here with you tonight. I'm excited. I don't know if you're going to be around tomorrow at about midnight to crack a few brews with me and celebrate the first round, but that's going to be a fun one. And then Friday isn't an unknown. I might be on, I might not be on. I'm not 100% sure. I have a buddy I haven't seen in a while who might be coming up on Friday, so I'll see. But yeah, Jan, I appreciate you being back, and I appreciate a bunch of people being back at this point, Kyle, because there was a couple of streams where there's nothing happening for like 6-7 weeks, and there's no interest in anything. And now that the draft is coming back, there's gonna be a lot more people watching Jets content again. So I'm excited to have all of you back, and especially Jan, because he's Mr. Moneybags over there. So we definitely appreciate Jan. I'm excited to see you for the home opener, Jan, as well. So,
by the way, before we get to more of the chats, Joe, we do have a Packers fan who's clearly trolling you guys. And if you guys let him get to you, then the joke's on you, because it's clearly this guy's not being serious, but he's saying Zach is better than Rodgers. And I've seen it on numerous occasions. He's clearly a low IQ person because he doesn't know the difference between then and than. He keeps spelling than, THEN. Zach is better, THEN, Rodgers. And this is clearly not a smart person. So if you're letting this guy get to you, I mean,
I love Packers fans, and I loved them when I was there, but I'm almost to the point where I want them to play really shitty just because of how good they assume Love is going to be. Like I saw that Peter Kukowski guy on Twitter say say that, oh, well, something about their tight ends. I forget exactly what the reference was to the tight ends, but like, oh, it's going to be nice to have a quarterback who actually hits them over the middle. It's like you're disparaging Rodgers and like, oh, Love is going to be automatically better at this one thing than Rodgers. Like, do you not realize how fucking lucky you've been the last 18, 16, 50, or really 30 years, but like
15 years of Rodgers. 15 years of him actually playing.
That Love is going to be really, really good. Like they're assuming Love is going to be a top 10 quarterback. So I'm kind of hoping that Love is just absolute trash. So they realize what they're missing out on Rodgers because they just assume they're going to be great again, which is kind of stupid, but nonetheless. Ryder and Talon's PA, great day to be a Jets fan. Time to win the whole thing. Let's go Jets. And we have some. You guys go from 0 to 100 in 3 seconds, baby steps. Let's make the playoffs and hope for some luck. At the end of the day, like, yeah, I get it. NY Jets super fan, like, we have to kind of temper expectations. But at the end of the day, if we're not going for the ring, we're not going for all with Rodgers. What are we doing, right?
Joe, if Aaron Rodgers wins the Super Bowl with the Jets, can you call him the greatest Jet of all time?
I don't know. Like, is it because then you get into the thing of
longevity.
You get into the thing of longevity. So, like, do you have the the Tunes and the Namaths and all those guys who were here? The Corbettes who were here for longer. Like, now are you talking about the greatest, like, most impactful regular? Like, but then you get into the whole merger thing with Joe Namath and stuff. So probably not. But like, I get what you're trying to go for. But you could take it from quite a different or a few different angles on that one. I don't know. Mike, the Seahawks are so deeply tied to this outcome. The Jamal Adams trade really started the whole thing. Yeah, it did. It kickstarted a lot of this. It was, at least it was a big part of it. Super Bowl or bust. Let's see. Dick, Steven Engel, resident Devils fan. What's up? I know there's not too many of us, so let's go Devils. And they're going to say that.
They play tomorrow. They play tomorrow tonight.
They play tomorrow at 7:30, dude. Like they've been playing at nighttime. I've been working midnights. I haven't been able to sleep because the whole Rodgers stuff. The Devils, like I tried to go to bed the other night. It's 1-0. I can't go to bed when it's freaking 1-0, and they tie it up. It's just, it's 2-2. They start the game at 7:30 tomorrow. They'll probably be, the Jets will probably pick at like 9:30. They'll be right at the end of the game. So my luck is going to be Devils, 1-1 with a minute left in the third. Aaron, Roger Goodell's walking up to announce. Well, I guess that kid Kyle's actually announcing the Jets pick. You know what I'm saying? Woot woot from Eagle. We made it from Train. I'm happy to be competitive. Our roster isn't good enough yet. Again, I think that people are going to be quite satisfied with how we fill the rest of the roster. I think there's a lot of moves coming.
There's still a lot to be done, but
a lot to do.
We'd be lying to ourselves if we said that our roster is anything close to what that Eagles roster was last year.
No, but Kyle, but let's get away from the draft and say right now you add Al Woods, you bring back Quan, you add Rodney McLeod to the Jets defense, and that's it. That's it. Not even considering the draft. Are we a better defense than last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. Just because of safety play, you substitute Clark for Whitehead and McLeod for Joyner, even though you're getting a slight downgrade at D tackle. I think we're a better defense than we were last year because of how abysmal our safety play is. And I think just having average safety play with elite corner play is really going to elevate those guys as well, like the safeties. Mm-hmm. So get A-Rod on the intro, get it done. Yeah,
it's crazy to think that Sauce Gardner still has a decent amount of room for improvement too.
Who do you think's going to wear 0 for the Jets, by the way?
I would not want that number if I was a player.
Really? I feel like if
0?
Odell came, which by the way, you haven't seen it. We haven't talked about the Odell stuff. There was no fucking way the Jets were going to pay him $15 million with up to $18 million. I thought he would wear it. But I'm curious to see who. I think maybe it's McCole Hardman. Maybe it's him because Lazard is 10. You have Garrett Wilson who has a stranglehold on 2 numbers now apparently. So what does Hardman wear? I think maybe he's 0.
Whatever happened to wide receivers wearing in the 80s? Like, what? Take a freaking 80.
Back in my day. Now I know. Breece Hall was saying, he was looking at 0. So would you like Breece Hall in 0, or do you want him to stick at 20?
Didn't Breece Hall say he wasn't going to change his number to 0?
No, I think he's put something out there like he's thinking about it or something like that. So
no, 0 is a stupid number, man. I don't want anybody in 0.
Is it not really a number because it's 0? I don't know. Paul, what's up? Ty Johnson released with non-football injury. Yeah, and draft a guy in the 5th round. Or maybe the Jets make a move where, again, we're saving some money with McGovern, obviously. What's to say they don't sign a Kareem Hunt for $3-4 million at this point if Kareem Hunt wants the ring chase? It's a possibility. Let's fucking go double. Yeah, I knew it was coming. From Steven. Colex, what's up? Going to be hard to pay attention to watch both. Dude, and my problem is, too, I think I have a couple of friends coming over as well. So I'm going to have buddies over, the Mets game on a laptop, the Devils game on a TV, and the draft on another TV. So it's going to be so hard to concentrate, but I'm going to have to just jack up the volume and tell everybody that I love.
And by the way, notice how 2 years in a row, I didn't get an invite.
Oh, we
Draft
spoke
night
about
one.
this. We spoke about this. We know why. It's okay. We'll talk about it all fair. McGovern at 1.9 million is a damn good deal. It's an elite deal. It's that and getting Clark for a 7th round pick and $4.5 million are really, really good deals for the Jets at this point. I have no idea how he signed for less from Schweitzer. I'll never understand it, but it gives him true flexibility to either be a backup, to draft a center, or to legitimately be the starter. Like you could do either one. Another running back getting drafted this weekend. I could see that. Did Rodgers mention Quan Alexander in his press conference? He did not. Right? No,
I don't think he did. I listened to it. I don't remember that.
No. Did they really have to pick swap to make the deal? A 2 and a likely first rounder should have been more than enough.
I don't think they had to. I think if the Jets wanted to play hardball and wait a couple more weeks, I mean, obviously you could have still gotten Rodgers if you waited post draft and
Yeah.
Is Green Bay not going to make the deal because the draft's over? I mean, they didn't have to, but like I said at the beginning of the show, just because you want to get him in the building and start to renegotiate his contract and then, figure out what your cap situation is, figure out what Quinnen's contract's going to be and, sign the rookie class and all that kind of stuff. Did they have to? No, but I see why.
That and this is me thinking with my heart over my head, like just get it done. Like I was so willing to throw in a little bit more just to get it done. And like again, childish part of me, I'm excited to just see the draft picks and them talk about the Jets roster. Like, they're going to ask the draft picks, what do you think about going to play with Aaron Rodgers and stuff like that? For them to actually be able to answer it instead of like, oh, well, hypothetically, if he's for the Jets, now them being able to say like, yeah, going to play with Aaron Rodgers, like that's exciting to me. Just hearing the rookies talk about the Jets right now. It's like Hugh when he came, he's like, I just walked by Le'Veon Bell and CJ Mosley.
By the way,
fun,
you gotta feel good for the kids too. Like let's say they draft a receiver. Right, like imagine you're a receiver and you're going to play with a garbage quarterback like Zach Wilson. Sorry to trash him; he just was so bad last year.
Mm-hmm.
Like the kid's obviously not going to publicly trash Zach Wilson, so you're gonna have to make him lie on the night that he's drafted. Oh yeah, I'm excited. He's a very talented player and things like that. But now he can actually like truly be genuine and say, oh yeah, I'm going to play with one of the all-time greats. Like that's really cool. Like he can be genuine. So.
Howard asks, what Rodgers jersey color should he get? Kyle, you have any opinions on this?
I would say probably green, just because he played with Green Bay and stuff. I view Aaron Rodgers in the green color. So
yeah,
part of that might be for me too, because I have a couple black jerseys now. My sauce jersey's black.
I feel like black is for like more of like a skill, like a sauce, skill position, wide receiver, running back. White is more like offensive line, quarterback, and then. Green is
we really sound like kids right now, man.
No, it's just it depends on what you need. Like if like I love the look of the white jersey, but I don't know you, Howard. Are you eating a lot of buffalo wings when you're watching the game? Are you going to games? Yeah. It's risky with a white jersey. If you're going to an away game, I love wearing green because it shows that green, Jets where black and white could be associated with a lot of other teams. So if you're going to a lot of away games, green's a good color. And black is just it's probably the best looking jersey the Jets have, but it kind of depends on what you're looking at. I would say white. I would say white if you go to a lot of games and you're out at a lot of events. Maybe black, just because it seems like the Jets hate green, so they're not going to wear them a lot. And maybe if you have a green Jets jersey, it kind of looks like a green Packers jersey, and obviously different numbers and stuff like that. But I would say black or white. Eagles has black. Packers did not win anything. They saved face with the Rodgers trade. They could have got 3 first rounders plus massive mid picks after second MVP in a row. Trade 15 they could have definitely got more if they traded him post 2021 instead of post 2022.
My cousin was saying too.
So
isn't it funny how things like that work out? Like, if you're a Jets fan, you're so happy about that. It's like the butterfly effect, how one thing can always have an effect on the other.
Yeah, I felt bad. I thought I brought my grandpa to the Devils game. Because it's probably his last year he can go, so I brought him. I was like a little present, whatever. And I'm sitting there, and the intros are coming, like Devils are coming out. We're all excited and stuff. But in the back of my head, and I brought up to him, and I was kind of feel bad for him next. Like he's a huge Devils fan. It's probably his number one sport.
Is your grandfather? You said?
Yeah. And I'm sitting there. I'm like, this is great and all, like cool playoff game, but I cannot imagine being at MetLife Stadium for a Jets home playoff game, especially when they announced Aaron Rodgers out of the tunnel. Like, can you imagine playoff game? Aaron Rodgers coming out of the tunnel?
Last time we had a home playoff game was 2002, right?
It was a Jags or Colts or something like that. I was 9.
We beat the shit out of the Colts in 2002, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. That'll be exciting. That'll be exciting for sure. JD will find a way to get some more picks. Trade Quinn. No, okay. I'm just skipping past the Quinnen stuff. I'm not even going to get into that.
Well,
Matthew,
I know you don't want to trade Quinnen, and it doesn't really make sense for the Jets because then they just have a huge glaring need at defensive tackle. But I guess I'm putting you in an awkward position because there's been several people that have brought that up in this chat. What would you have to what would you have to receive for you to be somewhat comfortable with actually trading him away?
I don't know, like 2 first-round picks, maybe at the minimum.
Somebody at the top of the show said the Texans get their pick 12, pick 33, and then like pick 64.
It's not, but like even that, like no, I'm not taking that because who at 12 is going to replace Quinnen Williams? Is Canty going to be Quinnen Williams? No.
I agree with you.
Is Jalen Carter going to be there? No. And then like, what's the chance that that pick 33 even works out? Like if in the history of the draft, if pick 33 is a role player, you're going to take that in the history of the NFL.
Could you imagine? Wait. What if Jalen Carter was there though?
If he was cleaner off the field, like I would be okay at the conversation, but I just can't see Q replacing Q, who's the Jets player, like like kind of easygoing, all this shit, and you replace him with Jalen Carter. It's just so polar opposite. No, fuck that. Like I wouldn't take 6 or 12 and 33, whatever it is. No, just Q would stay in. Kyle's here, hell yeah. Matthew also appreciates you. Electric. Am I the only one excited that Zach has? No.
Yeah, you're one of few that feel that way.
No. Let's see. Who the fuck is Quinnen Williams to hold out? He's not really holding out. He missed
first team All Pro.
He missed a voluntary workout. It wasn't, he didn't skip anything that he had to be at, so he hasn't skipped anything yet. So I would relax on that. And he told people post season that he was going to not show up for the voluntary stuff. He didn't have a contract. At the end of the day, he's trying to make a lot of money, and him going and practicing raises the risk of injury, and he's trying to get paid. So I get him sitting out right now. He deserves his money. Sit out.
Yeah.
Pay him.
Yep. Hearing that right.
So, and it's not like the players are out there like, oh my God, Quinnen Williams, what the hell is he doing? Like, every player on Jets Twitter is like, whether it be Brees or whoever, like Brees the other day tweeted out, something like get Q signed, he needs to celebrate with us right now or something like that. So they're not mad at Q. It's how it works. It's the NFL. So yep, that's the same thing. Mike says, good job, Mike. Let's see. Electric. I'm looking for more of, okay, this is the Zach thing. Zach Wilson's not going to go from being one of the worst.
I'm honestly scared that if Zach Wilson's the 2 next year, I'm scared. If Rodgers goes down and has to miss a game or whatever.
There's people out there who are like on Twitter are talking like, oh, the Jets should draft the guy in the 5th or 6th round at quarterback. Why would you do that? And that makes no sense in the world to me, drafting a quarterback late to develop 2 guys behind Aaron Rodgers with no real backup answer. It makes,
especially in a year that you only have 5 draft picks. You're hoping that you can draft a guy in the 4th, 5th round, and he can be an immediate contributor like a Michael Carter II, and start every game for you.
Yeah, exactly.
You draft a backup quarterback, like that guy's not going to take 1 snap this year.
Or you trade those picks, and it happens all the time. You see 4th or 5th round picks. Like we traded a 5th round pick for Brandon Marshall. Like trade that pick for a vet or something like that. I don't.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, like I do wonder what is Hopkins going to go for? Somebody, would you, if you could swap Corey Davis, and then you got to give up a draft pick. Maybe do the Jets even have a 4th rounder this year? And you trade Corey Davis and a 4th round pick for Hopkins. You do that?
Fuck yeah! Are you kidding me? Yeah, do that. Then we legitimately have 1A, 1B. Like Hopkins is still a 1 in the NFL. You have 2 1s, and you have Lazard as your 3, and Brees and Conklin, all that stuff. Like Conklin is going to go like. He's underrated by fans at this point. And he's going to be a guy, in my opinion, who's going to have like 70 catches, 700-ish yards, 7-8 touchdowns. I think Conklin's going to gain the respect of Jets fans this year with Aaron Rodgers. So I'm excited. But adding Hopkins to this offense, like holy shit, dude. And not only just adding him to the team, but also, and we've had this conversation with other players, but how much more capital you're almost willing to invest into trading for Hopkins, considering that not only is he going to come to the Jets, but that might prevent him from going to the Buffalo Bills or the Chiefs.
Sure. And it seems, Von Miller keeps saying, apparently Von is decently good friends with him, and Von keeps saying Hopkins wants to go to the Bills, and they did this whole thing. I don't know who the guy was who interviewed Hopkins. He gave him like a list of like 4. So you obviously saw it. For the people who didn't see it, it was like 4 teams, He's like, you don't even got to say anything. Just make like a facial expression of like which teams you want to go to. He mentioned the Patriots, he mentioned the Jets, he mentioned the Bills, and then he mentioned one other team. I can't remember which team it was. And for two of the teams, Hopkins was kind of like not a happy face.
That's when they didn't have Rodgers, though. Maybe.
But when he mentioned the Bills, he made like a smiley face. So there is a decent amount of smoke to that Bills rumor, and I don't want DeAndre Hopkins with Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen.
And this is never going to happen, Kyle. But if I told you right now, you have to give up what would you give up to keep DeAndre Hopkins just from the Bills without us even acquiring him? Obviously, he's not going to be the Jets. Like, would you give up a 7th round pick just to say, okay, he's not on the Bills?
A 7th round pick, yes.
I might do a 6. I might do a 6 and be like, no, I don't want him on the team.
I'm not doing that for a 5th. A 6th, maybe I could be talking.
I'll do a 6th. Let's do a 6th. Keep him off the team. So we'll see.
And in most years, I would not do anything. But the thing is the Jets are really pushing hard for a Super Bowl these next 2 years. So like the Bills are a legitimate threat for that.
Or Chiefs, dude. Like imagine Hopkins and Kelsey. Like fuck, dude.
I think that was the other team. I think that was the 4th team that the guy mentioned.
Yeah.
The Chiefs. Okay. And then he had a smiley face for the Chiefs and for the Bills, and not for the Patriots, not for the Jets.
Yeah. So RJ says, what do you think of the recent rumors that the Jets are trying to move up for JSN? Personally, I think so. I think he'll be a great player. I do like him a lot, but with tackle being the more important position to fill right now, I can't trade up for JSN. Unless like let's say they don't like Skronsky, they only like Johnson and Jones. Like we can't just assume they like right. Like let's say they only have 3 guys. If those 3 guys go, and it's like shit, we have to trade up for a guy we like because nobody else we'd like. I could see that possibility, but I don't think it's realistic. I think a tackle falls and they grab one of them. I would consider taking JSN if he's at 15, but not trading up for him because moving up 3 picks, what's that going to cost? I think the value of the pick change from the pick swap from 13 to 15 was about a 3rd round pick. So moving up from 15 to 12 is going to cost you, let's say a 3rd next year and a 4th. Like it's just too much to move up for a guy like JSN.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I really do like the player a lot. So I think he's going to be, honestly, if you're telling me who has a higher floor in the NFL, JSN or any of these tackles, I'm going JSN. It's hard for me to see him being a bust in the NFL. But, I am factoring need. And I would say that overall, offensive tackle is a more valuable position to your team. So.
RJ says, Joe, you should stream during the draft. We want to see your live reaction. I get that, and I do, and like secondarily, I would love to be here with you guys, but it's just like I don't want to tell my real life friends like, no, sorry, I can't hang out with you guys like we always do because of YouTube. At the end of the day, I'll be on after. Trust me. Last year's entertaining. I embarrassed myself. I went on the day after, and I was like, I listened to myself. I'm like, I'm stuttering and I am slurring my words, and I sound like an asshole, but. We'll have a repeat of that this year, maybe. So it'll be fun, regardless. Chris Turner seeing Rodgers and Jets gear feels surreal. It does for sure. Jordan Victor, damn, I'm working all weekend. That is unfortunate. Let's see. I would like to see the Jets. Mike White is in the chat, Kyle. I would like to see the Jets target a trade back to pick 24 or 24 to 27 or so and select Dewan Big Thanos Jones. His snatch technique is ridiculous in pass pro. The problem is he there at 24, 27? Like that's a big jump. So you're assuming they trade back and they don't like any of the tackles on the board, but they're more comfortable with DeJuan Jones at pick, let's say 25. But is it worth, if you're comfortable with him at 15, is it worth the trade down of 10 spots and missing out on a guy that you like at, in the first round? Like at what point do you just grab the guy if you like him instead of trying to risk it? Because let's say they trade down, he's not there, and they're like, shit, we don't like anybody else later in the first round, and now you just didn't fill tackle.
Yeah, that's always the risk with trading down. So,
yeah,
I don't know anything about DeJuan Big Thanos Jones. I can't really comment on him specifically.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I'm scrolling through the chat. I'm sorry. There's literally an hour and a half of chat in here I'm trying to get through. Give A-Rod something the Packers never did, a first-round weapon. I don't know if you're talking about receiver. I'm just as comfortable drafting a tackle. That is obviously good for him as well, keeping him protected. And the thing about it too is like if you were to draft JSN and maybe you were to invest in a Cam Fleming instead of a high like capital offensive tackle, You can make the argument that, listen, Aaron Rodgers gets the ball out so goddamn quick, he's going to make the offensive line look better. And this is something I wanted to bring up with Connor McGovern, Kyle, was like a lot of his problems is like setting protections and kind of having mental lapses. How much does Aaron Rodgers fix his shit in terms of protections and not sliding the wrong way and stuff like that? So McGovern's going to be a better player with Rodgers.
I think a really good amount. Quarterback is more important for setting protections than center is.
Exactly.
They're both important, but quarterback more so.
Yeah. So let's keep moving on. Rich says, media, a bunch of haters. Fact is, the Jets' future is bright, and the East is shook. Dude, like, I'm not gonna say people are shook with the Jets, but like, they're a legitimate contender. Like, you can't look at them as a cakewalk anymore. Like, the Jets coming into your building is a concern now. It's a game you circle in the schedule. It's not a game you circle in the schedule like, oh, this is an easy win. It's like, shit, we got to play the Jets now, right? Like, what, Kyle? If you had to power rank the AFC right now, are we? And this is assuming kind of that we fill some holes in the draft, and obviously some other teams are as well. But like, power ranking the AFC right now, where are
AFC? We? I would definitely put the Bengals and Chiefs over. There's a legit question of who is. Let's see how they fill the rosters out. This is a question that we kind of answer in June, July, something like that. But I do like us better than the Dolphins, and quarterback is a huge reason for that, though. But you know, we can't sleep on the Dolphins, and it would be hard for. I'll put us over the Dolphins. I can't really put us over the Bills at this point, just because the Bills have been so consistently good. Since McDermott took over. So what, fourth maybe?
I would say fourth, and you can argue for third. Like, if when we do that show with the Bills in terms of comparing the rosters, I'm going to be really curious to see where we rank the Bills in front of the Jets if the Jets fill the holes that they're going to in the way that I assume they will. Like, defensive line, I'm taking us. You know, linebacker, they may have it. Safety, they may have it. But like corner, we have running back, we have potentially tight end, receiver. So it's an interesting conversation. But I would say fourth or potentially even third. So yeah, be excited. It's definitely time to be excited. I don't know what this is in reference to. 446 ain't elite at NFL. My thing is stuck.
Oh, they're talking about Bijan Robinson's 40-yard dash time.
Oh, I thought it was making a JSN thing. And to me, Kyle, and I know you're gonna agree with this. If I told you straight line speed versus change of direction and like short area explosion for a receiver, I think you're gonna take short area explosion and change of direction all day over straight line speed, right?
Yes. But why are we talking about that when we're talking about a running back, though?
I just saying I thought this was in reference to. I thought this was a JSN thing. Just seeing this when I first glanced over it. So
yeah, I mean, 40-yard dash times are important. There's no doubt about that. But straight line speed. I mean, like Stephen Hill had great straight line speed, but the dude could not run a route. He couldn't sink his hips, getting in and out of cuts to save his life. So. Yeah.
Let's see.
Or look at Cooper Kupp. I mean, like, you want to talk about a guy who can get in and out of cuts and stuff using, he's a guy who's, you could say, quick, but definitely not fast. So
J-Mac brings up Budda Baker.
The Jets have had, if we're being honest, the Jets have had a lot of guys who had good 40-yard dash times over the years. Remember when we signed that guy? He was like a second, third round pick from the Dolphins. This is like 2012, 2013 era. Dolphins cut him, and then we brought him in. He's like a deep ball threat guy. Why am I forgetting his name? Somebody in the chat's going to know. Just another example of a guy who,
Clyde Gates. I'm talking Clyde Gates.
I think it was Clyde Gates. Yeah. You remember?
Maybe.
Clyde Gates, great straight line speed, but not much else out there.
J-Mac has Budda Baker. I think a big splash is coming, but if I had to guess, it's not
going to be a safety. It's not going to be Byard. It's not going to be Budda. It's not happening at safety.
Can you imagine what a Budda Baker would do for this defense, though? Like, can you imagine just adding him or just Quan, Budda Baker, and Al Woods? How much better this defense would be?
It would definitely improve the defense a lot. But I think for the way they want to play, I think they just need to get someone more competent in there. I think for this defense to really kind of like take the next stride, it's kind of like really getting like another really legit pass rusher, like if we want to see this defense take like a huge step up, I think it'd be much more important that Jermaine Johnson reaches his potential than like getting someone like a Budda Baker to replace a Joyner. Like, I think Jermaine Johnson, like, legitimately becoming a beast would be so much bigger for this defense.
Yeah. J-Mac brings up a good point. Corey Davis, Denzel Mims, and McCole Harbin are all on 1-year deals, and that's the good point in terms of like drafting a JSN.
Exactly.
The whole need thing. Is a receiver next offseason going to be a need? Yeah. Like, do you feel much better about the Jets going into the 2024 season? I tell you, okay, you have JSN and Wilson under contract? I do. So I see it's a possibility. I see JSN as a real possibility. Do I think he makes it to 15? I don't. But we'll see. There's a lot of talk about Bijan Robinson in his 40 time right now. I don't really know what's going on.
Because all right, like a lot of people, whether it's PFF, Daniel Jeremiah has Bijan as number 3 on his big board. Like we're talking like, he's the best running back prospect to come out since maybe Ezekiel Elliott or something like that. A lot of people really, really, really like him. They say he's very well rounded. Someone like Todd Gurley was obviously highly touted, but he was coming off an ACL injury. So Bijan's definitely like a really, really good player, but I think some people are a little like, okay, is he that elite if he runs a 4.46? I don't know, but we're not taking Bijan Robinson, so
I don't know. We have CD in here talking about somehow stopping the run. I have no idea. He's talking about Rodgers. He's played in the cold, but not the wet and windy cold, Kyle. So it's different. It's different here. But they're by a big lake. Are you sure it's not as windy in Green Bay? I don't know.
Do you consider a snowy game to be wet and windy? Like, what are you talking about? Like, there's plenty of snow games that Rodgers has played in.
CD, I like CD. He always has a twinge of negativity. He leans more towards negative, which is fine. You need some of those guys in here. JSN is twitchy and quick as fuck. Just not super top end speed. Yeah, I'm not super concerned about the top end speed. Luca said JFM, which I believe this is a Luca I met at the home opener, I believe. And if so, what's up? And if not, hello. JFM restructure just happened. Did a restructure happen of JFM, Kyle?
No, that happened at like the beginning of free agency.
Creating 3.5 mil into cap space, 4.3 of JFM's base salary into signing bonus per Field Yates. It seems like it might have just happened, Kyle. Based on, I don't think Lucas brings something up from 2 months ago.
Well, let me check the Twitter and see if that's
check with Twitter.
Honestly, I think that's old news, Joe.
Yeah, I think it is, but I don't know. I want Brett. What do you think about Brian Branch at 15, Kyle?
Zero interest.
Yeah, to me, it's just redundant. Like, let's say the Jets had. Let's say they had a free safety. Let's say Clark was more of a free safety guy. Would I consider Branch at 15 as a strong safety? Yes, but you have Whitehead, you have Clark. It's just you have like 3 of similar-ish players at one spot. So if we had a free safety, I would consider it, but not right now.
Branch, I mean, like what percentage of his snaps were at free safety in college? I mean, my understanding, and even from when I was watching some of the Alabama tape from last year, he's predominantly playing slot corner. We have a pretty good slot corner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks like it might have just happened, Kyle. King Blaze.
I'm on Twitter right now. I don't see shit about it, but let me.
Are you on the for you or the following? Huh?
All right, let me type in JFM. And then I'll type in John Franklin Myers as well. All right, continue though.
Let's see. Ideal scenario: Branch at 15, trade for vet O tackle, sign Al Woods. I'm okay with trading for a vet tackle. Who is it? I have no idea. I haven't really seen a lot of names floated out there. And then again, Branch is just it's redundant with what we have already. So I don't love that move. If he was more of a free safety, sure. If you think he'd be a free safety, then I get it, Jared. Based on what I've seen, I think he's more of a strong safety. We already kind of have 2 of those. So this trade Quinn Williams.
Okay, yeah, there is a Field Yates from his official 1 million follower Twitter account. The Jets have converted 4.32 million of JFM's base salary into a signing bonus, creating $3.5 million of 2023 salary cap space. So I guess it is a recent thing.
Okay. Yeah, 3 again.
But I feel like they did this a couple, like a month and a half ago or whatever too, when free agency opened up. So is it possible that they kind of reworked his contract twice within that span? I don't know.
It's again, I saw a thing out there they can create $40 million in cap space, and that's without cuts. So we're going to start seeing a lot of moves to fit some of these guys under the cap, and then again, I think there's going to be maybe a splash and some other kind of guys signed or brought in to fill some spots. So,
but I do wonder if Field Yates is just just rehashing something that they did a while back. I don't know.
Do you have anything to say to CD? He's just depressed, Kyle. I don't know if you can.
Which other team loses 6 straight and comes back as a Super Bowl favorite? Well, who the hell ever said the Jets were the Super Bowl favorite? Certainly me or Joe Blewett didn't say that. We're just saying they're in the conversation. And here's the thing, CD. I remember when they were talking to Kyle Shanahan. I think this might have been like pre-Super Bowl conference, the 2020 Super Bowl, which was for the 2019 season technically. And the 49ers were picking second overall that year. And they asked Kyle Shanahan, when did you know that this team could be legit and could have like a big turnaround? And he said, the moment that we selected Nick Bosa. Like they got a legitimate superstar who, as a pass rusher, who's a legit superstar that can change the dynamic of a defense, which is one of the reasons why I just said what I just said about Jermaine Johnson. Let's see, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Tom Brady, they were picking 13, which is the same spot the Jets were selecting this year prior to just trading back a couple days ago. That year they selected Wirfs at 13, if I'm not mistaken, and then they won't go win the Super Bowl next year. So the point is that adding a legit superstar or two, it can drastically change the dynamic of your team and at least give you a shot to win it the next year. And the Jets, listen, if you compare how bad Zach Wilson was, you're talking literally bottom of the barrel. Out of quarterbacks that started a minimum of a certain amount of snaps last year, he's 32 out of 32. No question about it. Yeah. And now you got a guy who's legitimate, like no question, top 10, closer to top 5, in my opinion. So, nobody's saying the Jets are Super Bowl favorites. We're not even saying that they're top 3 in the AFC. But to act like they don't have some kind of shot if they knock the draft out of the park and, all the players like Garrett Wilson, let's say he becomes elite next year. Let's say Sauce takes another huge step up. Jermaine Johnson takes another huge step up. Quinnen continues to ascend as a player, right? Mekhi Becton manages to stay healthy, and we could see some of his potential. You mean to tell me that this team doesn't have a shot, right? Like some of these other teams too that are better than the Jets. What if Joe Burrow goes down with another, God forbid, ACL injury or something? Like football's a weird sport, man. It's not something like basketball where you have a pretty good idea at the beginning of the season which teams are going to be in or around the finals, right? Like basketball is a superstar driven league, and which teams have the superstars are going to be legit into the deep in the postseason. Football, injuries and stuff can really kind of change the season. And anyway.
Hype says, Joe Kyle, I disagree. I think we're trading back, getting defensive tackle, pick up a third rounder. We will take wide receiver in the second round. There's a lot. Yeah, this is a very hypothetical kind of like statement here. The thing with trading back is who's trading up, for what? Like you have to have trade partners. I don't think there's many teams itching to get up to pick 15 as some people think they are. So I think the Jets more than likely we're gonna have to stick and pick. Carmelo says we need more playmakers. When Hull went down, we were one-dimensional. We were one-dimensional because Zach Wilson was throwing the football, but that's part of it too. Hull as well, but investing a first-round pick into Bijan Robinson and having him in Hull would great, but that's too much into running back. It's way too much investment. We need a tackle. We need some other things. So we have David, who's been going off the entire time about getting rid of Quentin Williams, and he's a bum and he's lazy, I guess, because he skipped one voluntary OTA. So we should trade him, Kyle, because he sucks, and just replace him with Cansey because Cansey's going to be just as good because of all those YouTube highlights out there. So it's just I don't know. Rico says Skronski shouldn't be the pick. Why should think about our division? All relevant edges outside of Von Miller are long guys with power, and Von is a Hall of Famer. Don't need to experiment with this. In a perfect world, it's not Skronski, but the problem is it's not a perfect world. Is Skronski much? Are you much more comfortable, Kyle, with Skronski's floor than Johnson and Jones? So if it's between those guys, I understand. I understand.
If Skoronski fails at tackle, I think there's a pretty damn good chance that he's going to be a really good guard. So,
Wright and Jones are extremely high. Jones is not an extremely high floor pass protector. That's definitely not true. I would say Wright has a higher floor. Jones is very, very, very real to me. I'm not going to say he has an extremely high floor at pass protection because he's not even good pass protection now. So if he's not good in pass protection now, how can you say his floor is high in pass protection?
Yeah, I agree.
High floor, which is why Branch is the pick. Yeah, I don't agree with that. We need free safety bad. Yeah, we do. That's for sure. Get rid of Whitehead and bring in again anybody. John Johnson, a guy in the 4th round. Maybe it's Tony Adams and compete with the 4th round guy. I don't know, but you can't roll into the season with Clark and Whitehead. I don't think it's again redundant. I use that word a lot, but still. D tackle could be the pick. I think if anything, Kyle, past S tackle, do you think D tackle Cansey is the next highest possibility, or do you think it's JSN would be the next highest possibility at minus tackle?
I would think that JSN's higher on the board than Can't see. I would think, but
Second,
again, I'm not in those Jets meetings and stuff, and I do know that the good teams, the GM and the coach want to work well with each other. And I mean, like, okay, if you're Joe Douglas, how much, like, when you make a recruiting pitch to Aaron Rodgers, you go and fly all the way out to California. Rodgers is expressing like, hey, listen, I might want to play for you guys, but I want, these are some of the concerns I have and things. I wonder if Rodgers said in that multiple hour conversation that they had, hey, listen, Green Bay never got me a first round receiver all the years I was there. And if you're Joe Douglas, do you want to make your guy happy who you want to get back for a second year? And maybe you think about giving him a pass catcher, right? Because like, if you're Aaron Rodgers, are you more excited that the Jets draft a potential stud receiver, or are you more happy that they draft a defensive tackle? Right? Like,
yeah,
it's a no brainer answer. But then again, Joe Douglas wants to make Robert Saleh happy, I assume. And, Cansey, I think kind of fits the mold for what Saleh wants in a penetrating defensive tackle. So I don't really know who would be higher on their board, but for me, if I'm making a big board, JSN is higher. So I think he'd be the pick.
Me too. Second round pick trade for Orlando Brown was just signed, so I don't think they want to pay him all the bonuses and all that stuff and just trade him away. That's not going to happen. I like this point by Mike White here. Maybe JFM is a new tackle. I think it's a possibility, Kyle.
He's better inside than he is on the edge. There's no question.
Like, what if the Jets are saying, hey, we're keeping Carl Lawson because JFM is going to take those pass reps inside. And now you have Lawson, JJ, Huff playing more DN reps while JFM's inside more next to Q. I think it's a possibility.
I think, dude, if I'm not mistaken, I think somebody, either Douglas or Saleh, actually said as much at the end of the season. Right? Didn't they say something like that?
Yeah.
I mean, we've been saying that for years, especially me.
So I'm gonna try to control my dog's barking in about 5 seconds when my wife gets home and walks in the door and goes crazy. But just understand that that's what's happening when he starts to freak out. But
he's fine.
I like that. Like, listen, if that was the plan, if you told me that was the plan, I would sign up for that right now. Hey, you're not going to get a D tackle, but it's going to be JFM. Now I'm going to still ask you who was stuffing the run inside.
Yeah, they still need more depth on the interior defensive line. But if you want to play him major reps inside, I'm fine with it. I think,
but it wouldn't
just
be.
Fine there.
You wouldn't need to invest as much as a second round pick in a D tackle if you're telling me JFM's going to be there. And you just need to run stuffer. Okay. Trade Q watch. David, I think that I would bet you quite a bit of money that he's not traded. So linebacker from Jack Iowa Jack, whatever, Jack Campbell, right? That's his name.
Yeah, Jack Campbell.
Let's see. Branch at 15, second rounder for Orlando Brown. Why are they trading? Who is giving Orlando Brown away for a second round pick at this point? They just signed him. I don't get what your plan is here.
That's there's no way that's happening. The Orlando Brown thing.
We have some
Branch at 15 too. I would say that is that's less than 1% too. I would say.
Yeah, David, you don't get $17 million if you cut Mosley June 1st. I think you got to read that contract a little bit differently. But Mosley's not trash. He's not good, but he's still and this is part of the kind of the effect that linebacker is not. It's not great in today's NFL, but Mosley's still probably a top 10 guy right now in the NFL. And again, it speaks to the lack of true talent we have at linebacker in the NFL right now. But he's still a top 10 guy, I would say, if I had to rank him. So. Comment? No? Okay.
No, okay. I was wondering, like, listen, Mosley's definitely not trash. And, but to say that he's, as good as the second team all pro says is also not, and he's clearly in the decline. So I'm just saying you got to prepare for life after him. And obviously that's not the season. You're not cutting him this season. It's just not workable, but prepare for the future.
Rich said this is a good show. Just sub. So I appreciate Rich being here for maybe the first time and subbing. If we can get 1 or 2 subs a show, Kyle, I'm happy. So welcome.
1 or 2 subs a show. We want a lot more than that.
We've been dude. It's been slow. It's been like we've been at like 18 or 8,100 for like a while. But excuse you as my dog barks. But let's keep going. Mosley reads the offense. We kind of need that. Yeah, and that's a big part of Clark too. Like
he's a valuable player.
Bringing Clark was a communicator of the Ravens defense for the last couple of years, wearing that green dot. So that's another part of the underrated part of the defense. Bringing in Clark.
Just hear this out. Mosley got his big contract at the beginning of the 2019 season, if I'm not mistaken. So they signed him March 2019, I believe, which was the first Adam Gase year, I think. All right. Mosley's contract is still up there amongst like the top 5 inside linebackers, if I'm not mistaken. Still. Now, Tremaine Edmonds, I think, just eclipsed him. Obviously, Fred Warner is above him. But other than that, like, who else? Like, if you saw some of these deals that some of these linebackers got this offseason, I mean, like, they make Mosley's contract look like it's nothing. And that was years ago. Like, he's vastly overpaid. He's a good player, but he is vastly overpaid. It's just the way that his contract, you can't even get out of it right now, even if you wanted to. So, but at the earliest point when you can, to the point where it saves you a lot in the cap and you don't have to take a huge dead cap hit, I think that's the point you got to get out of it, because you're already starting to see the decline.
CD says, Joe, you are filling spots, ... for starters, ... like teams fill backups. CD, unfortunately, you cannot fill every single spot with studs, so you're going to have to fill some starting spots with some guys who are on $2-3 million deals. Like, do the Chiefs look at the Chiefs corners and some of their safeties and some of their offensive linemen of year past, their running backs, some of their receivers who they play? Like, you're going to have to, they paid like MVS and all these guys, Sammy Watkins a couple of years ago. Like, you're going to have to fill some spots for starters, like teams fill backups. Like, I don't know what you mean by that. You're not going to be able to have studs at every position. So yeah, Rodney McLeod is not necessarily an exciting signing if it is to happen, but he's better than Joyner. So yeah, you can't fill every spots with studs, right? Like, what are we talking? I don't get what that. You're off today, CD. I don't appreciate it tonight. I don't know what it is, but I'm just angry at CD. I think I get more angry towards CD because I feel like he's always he's just combative.
You do get
combative
by him. He is. He's one of those guys who doubles and triples down on his arguments. He stands his ground. He won't concede to you even if you make a good point.
CD is the type, like he's one of the people who, at least in my life, like, you have people who the only way they have conversations with you is to argue, and CD is one of those guys to me. Like, there's nothing, we can't have a constructive conversation about something positive. It's let's argue to talk. So it's only argument points that are brought up with CD. So yeah, you're gonna have to listen. We had LaMarcus Joyner starting at free safety last year. It's gonna have to happen. You can sign a guy for $3 million. Like, yeah, would I like our D tackle to be DeForest Buckner, not Al Woods, and our starting free safety to be Budda Baker and not McLeod? Yeah, but unfortunately, we don't have cap space to do that, CD. So what are we talking about here? What are we doing? What this? I don't get it. I don't get it. Nonetheless, let's keep moving on. Matt O'Leary really dislikes. Who? My question to you, Kev Trotta, and Matt O'Leary is on this. Who likes Bijan Robinson?
Bijan is not going to the Jets. They have a stud in Breece Hall that they drafted early second round. They traded up early second round to get him. They're not drafting Bijan Robinson.
No, let's invest almost a first round pick.
Like, I don't even think Bijan's not going to even make it to 15.
Yeah. No. Yeah,
I mean, it's a possibility just because he's a running back, but I mean, like, Atlanta could very well draft him. Somebody is going to take Bijan Robinson before 15. I feel pretty confident in that.
Mm-hmm.
And the Jets, even if he makes it to 15, aren't taking him.
Yeah, it's not happening. So yeah, Matt likes. Who has really talked about Bijan Robinson to the Jets and said they like that idea? That's a terrible idea.
I haven't been seeing lots of mocks of that.
You just traded up for a running back who's basically almost a first round pick for us in Breece Hall. Now we're gonna, like, I get wanting a running back, but you're not gonna invest a first round pick into a guy who's going to split time with Breece Hall. Like, at the end of the day, when they're both healthy, you're putting a first round pick basically on the bench. You're not drafting Bijan. They have 12 carries in December. It just. Didn't they say Rashawn Slater is going to be a guard?
He's one of those players because he's a 3-down back, as is Breece Hall, that, you want those guys to, get 20 something, maybe 20 something carries a game.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't have two, you can't have two of those guys on your roster. I mean, like, I know that the thing with the Browns is they were kind of in an interesting situation. First of all, Nick Chubb was the second round pick, but Kareem Hunt just happened to fall into their laps because of what happened to him getting released from Kansas City. But yeah, you don't, in back-to-back years, draft a first round running back and an early second round running back that you traded up for. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, we traded up from 38 to 36. But Jared says Skronsky 1, Johnson 2, Wright 3, Jones 4. I'm the same exact order with you here, Jared. I'm just gonna put JSN at 4 and Jones at 5 in this order, and I'm with you on that completely. So Again, I think Skronsky's a double. I don't think he's going to be a home run unless he moves to guard eventually. But for a tackle, I think he's a double. I think he'll be at least decent. Never a stud, but I'm okay with him. Let's keep going. Mosley isn't a liability. Mosley's not worth his price and what he's being paid, but he's not a bad linebacker. Like it's and with players, like it's just where we are in America and just in times nowadays, Kyle, where it's either a guy is really, really good or he really, really sucks. There is no middle ground. So Mosley's good or he sucks. McGovern is good or he sucks.
Who called him a liability? I don't think I used that word.
No. We didn't. Rich knows we wouldn't. It's just with people in the chat are saying he sucks. Which again, for the price, yeah, his contract sucks a little bit. But Art says Jets, Cowboys, Jets Thanksgiving seems very much no. Art, don't put this out into the universe. I cannot. The Cowboys can be on any other week but Thanksgiving. That's the only one I really don't want.
Art, he does make a good point.
I can see that.
By the way, Art's one of the guys that came to say hello to us at the tailgate.
Yeah, right. Which like I almost like. So the thing that's like bad about that, Kyle, and like I think we had a good interaction with Art in general, but like just thinking back to that day, I think sorry, I have to keep letting my dog out, but I think it was after the Pats game. So he met me at like my home opener.
No, it was after the Ravens game.
But still, he met us at like a dark point. Like we just lost. It's raining. Like I was just
wasn't
angry
as dark
and
for you
off.
as post the first Pats game, Joe. And I was thinking before when you said like you were sorry for interrupting me, you were just excited. I was thinking about saying, hey, listen, I'll take excited Blewett over depressed Blewett any day. Depressed Blewett, you're gonna be a little scared if you're around him. Just to let you know.
Just accept it. Like you got to realize, like whatever I'm saying in that situation, just like it's not going to matter in 2-3 hours. Like I will recalibrate. But yeah, I can get pretty dark in the moment, especially when you go to a game and you get blown out. What was the first game? 6-27 or something, or 8-27, whatever the hell it was. I don't know. It wasn't ideal. That's for sure. So I'm going to keep moving through the chat. I'm still about an hour behind in there, so let's keep going. Love the McGovern. Yeah, it's just ultimate flexibility in the second round. I'm completely comfortable with McGovern's. Hey, Kyle, opening day, McGovern's our starter. Okay, cool. Hey, Kyle, opening day, McGovern's a backup guard and center for us, and JMS is starting at center. Okay, cool. Great depth. Like either way, it's really, really good for wherever it is. It's very, very good signing. It's an like Kyle, easily on the offensive line. That is I would say it's an A++ signing, and just based on the actual value that he got for that contract, I would say that's probably the best contract I've seen Joe Douglas sign. Like okay, you could argue DJ Reed, you could argue a few other ones out there, but Connor McGovern signing for $1.9 million is legitimately a really, really good move.
Yeah, I agree.
Ben Aguilar, it stunk. Yeah, was it $6.5 million, or like 2 years, $13 million for him? So
he was really bad, man. Those McCagnon offensive lines. Oh, geez.
Let's see. McGovern's rock bottom deal might be the first vet signing. Looking, yeah, I have a hard time seeing that he couldn't get more than $2 million out there, but I don't know. There's still gonna be some signings I think out there of players who are coming to join up with the Jets again. Whether that be like maybe it's a Cobb or whatever, but it's gonna happen. Cam Jurgens, okay. I'm just keep moving to the chat. The only wide receiver move I like is swapping Hopkins for Davis. Who wouldn't like that? I'd be fucking. That's.
People are just saying that it's the cap number for Hopkins, and then it's like, okay, how much does Arizona want to eat of the salary? So that's a fair. It's a fair argument to have.
JSN, Hardman, Lazard, Wilson, Davis, Mims is so scary. I would say. Well, one, they're not. If they draft JSN, they're not keeping Davis. It's just you're not keeping Davis as a fourth $10.5 million. You're not paying your fourth wide receiver $10.5 million. You're not paying your fifth $6 million in Hardman. So you're gonna get rid of Davis. So, but I would like JSN, Hardman, Lazard, Wilson. But I'd rather have a tackle or a D tackle over a JSN just because we have some guys who are capable there. Like I feel much more comfortable with the receiving core right now than I do with the tackles. But yeah, we'll see. So, who will JD trade to get another pick this weekend? Lawson or Davis?
I don't think more likely.
Yeah, I think Davis is more likely if it's JSN. But if I had to bet, it's neither. Kyle, I don't know if you agree with that.
I would say there's a decent chance Corey Davis is traded. I think Joe Douglas didn't look super duper comfortable when they asked him about Corey Davis, and his answer was certainly. He's not going to say anything bad about Corey, and obviously he would like to keep him, but
yeah,
the way that he answered made it seem like it's a decent possibility that he could get traded. And, he could just always just say, hey, listen, yeah, when I said what I said in the press conference, I meant it, but we got an offer that was pretty good. So
JSN is more talented than Will. So I'm going to take credence with, or not, I don't know if it's credence, but I'll take issue with the talented word. Exception. Yeah, thank you. He's not more talented than Wilson. I see maybe he could be better than. I don't know, man. I think Wilson's gonna be the better player than JSN at this point because of what Wilson did in his rookie year. But his film 1-for-1 in college, I would say JSN may be better, but not talented. Wilson's crazy talented.
Yeah, you could argue that Garrett Wilson is the better athlete overall when you factor in overall deep speed, jumping ability, spectacular catch ability. But you could argue that JSN is the more polished receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Like JSN has really good ball skills and so much of receiving is crisp route running, getting in and out of breaks. And there were some things on Garrett Wilson's college film that they're like, yeah, he can sharpen this up. And sometimes he just won with crazy athleticism and stuff, even though the technique was a little flawed.
He invented some breaks, dude. Like he added some stuff to his game. I watched that film and I'm really excited to do his review.
Looking forward to watching it.
Yeah, like double hop steps on his breaks and stuff, just like push a little more vertical. It's really nice, his route running. So GVH says, are you going to be on anyone's draft streams doing a show or locked away all weekend? Yeah. So Thursday towards the end of the first round or after it, I will definitely be on for a couple of hours. Friday, I might be on. And then I know on Saturday I'm jumping on Ryan from Jets Talk show. And then by the way, if I'm on Friday, if I am on Friday, I believe I'll be with Nania. I'm not sure 100%, but I believe Nania would join for that. But I'm still undecided. But I'm definitely gonna be on tomorrow night. So catch me tomorrow night at 11, 11:30, 12, whatever I'll be on at. It'll be late night. And then check back after that. So
I assume the question was more directed towards you, but if any part of that was directed towards me, Joe and I's initial plan as of a couple of days ago was that we would both stream together Friday like we did last year on the Friday night of the draft. But my younger brother decided, I almost want to say kind of last minute, to get married on a Friday. And it's kind of like a smaller type thing. I can't miss my brother's wedding. He's getting married Friday at 7:00. So, yeah, I won't be doing a stream. I'll be following along on my phone. And Thursday night, I might try to make it with Blewett, but it's a little rough when you have work the next morning. I assume you don't have work the next morning, Blewett.
No. And I would take off. Regard. There's no way.
I'm not taking off right now. So
yeah, there's no way. Kareem Carson, y'all are crazy. I don't know what that is. No idiot with. Okay, people are hostile in the chat right now. People are arguing and fighting with each other. I don't know. Y'all want to draft a center in the first round? Who is saying that? Is there people in the chat talking about a center in the first round? Have you seen that at all, or am I mistaken? I don't know if there's
what center prospect is like a first round guy. I'm not really hearing that.
I would say like I could see JSN like later on in the first if the Jets really needed a center there, but I don't see that as a possibility now. But I could see a team maybe like drafting him late first, but the Jets no way, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. The thing with JMS, not JSN, is I liked what I saw in the one game or so that I watched of him, but I had a tough time getting a lot of his film. He was one guy who's like, okay, yeah, I definitely want to see more. Honestly, there's a couple of guys at center that I liked. I was a little bit disappointed in Tippmann's film, to be honest. There's things to like with him. He's certainly a good athlete. He kind of reminds you, just from like body type and things, he reminds you of why am I forgetting his name? He's the Buffalo center right now, formerly of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Morse?
Mitch Morse. Yeah, tall guy, like a 6'6" center's tall. He moves really well in space, things like pin pull, getting out in space. He moves well, but he plays a little high, and sometimes he plays high, teams will hit him with like a push-pull move and then throw him to the ground and stuff. So I wasn't as high on him. Stromberg, he's a bit of a tough eval since they run so much. I didn't see him too much in pass pro. He kind of strikes me as a guy who wouldn't be really great value in early second round, but maybe, if you could somehow, well, the Jets don't have a third round pick, or if you could somewhere trade back. I also need to watch more of the Weipler kid too. So I feel like I only got one or so game.
That's Wisconsin kid, right?
No, Luke Weipler is on the Ohio State center.
Is that Tillman or whatever is Wisconsin? Maybe I am really excited to watch these guys too. Like, and it's almost nice, Kyle, because we only have 5 picks. Like in a world, I want more guys in the team, but I'm like, okay, I only got to do 5 more reviews. Like that's real nice, because then I have it all prepped and stuff. So,
yeah.
But I'm really excited to get into these guys and stuff. But Rich says, by the way, guys, this is my favorite YouTube combo. I appreciate that. Michael Nani is great too. hit the like button. Yeah, we'd appreciate some likes of that. We don't really ask for it a lot, but like buttons are appreciated, and we appreciate you, Rich.
Thank you so much, Rich. Rich is one of the Rich is one of the kindest and best supporters of the show. But Joe, we got a super chat, so let's prioritize that. Truman Theodore Dumel, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, for 1999. We should either draft Michael Meyer or reunite Wilson and Jackson Smith and Jigba, and then literally draft strictly O-line and defense. Joe, what say you?
Yeah, so I've seen like people talk about tight end as like maybe a distinct possibility. Like, okay, you don't really like Uzomah. He's not necessarily enough to keep a Meyer away from the Jets, but I don't see it with, the fact that they just restructured both. I think Conklin and Uzomah, so they're going to be here not only this year, but for next year as well. So you drafted a guy already in the 3rd round last year. So how much are you investing into tight end? So I see it as a very low possibility. Now, Jackson Smith, I would say that is much more likely, and I would be quite happy with that pick, obviously, depending on who's there at tackle. But then past that point, O-line and defense. If you weren't to grab a offensive line in the 1st round, you need offensive line after that point, and then defense. Yeah, I get it, but I don't see tight end happening, Kyle. I don't really have much more to add.
I don't either. It's on the one hand, it kind of sucks because it's like, okay, you don't want to, you want to take advantage of when a draft class is good, and you don't want to stretch for need, and like you always get yourself into trouble. So it's like, oh, if there's good tight ends and you have one that's good value, like if the Jets could get early 2nd round a tight end who's great value, or let's say 15, like so what's the kid Kincaid, the Utah kid, is that Kincaid? I didn't watch any of them because I don't, but people are saying, oh, he's a stud. I don't know if he'd be good at value at 15. I have no clue. But I don't see how you could justify it for the Jets. A 3rd round pick and then 2 guys that you just signed to contracts. It just doesn't make sense. So definitely when you draft, you factor in need. And it's just, you can't say it's a need for the Jets right now. It's at least a part of the process. I don't think it'll happen.
Joe, new room. Are you in the interrogation room at work? No, I'm my downstairs living room, den, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what you would call it, but this is.
By the way, somebody asked me about I forget the name of the person who asked me if the logo thing is from Hobby Lobby. Truthfully, I don't know. My wife got it, so I'd have to ask her. I gotta revamp my desk in this area, though. Anyway, go ahead.
Jody and Q are not close to a deal. I won't talk about it no more. Didn't Jody just come out and say we're making progress or whatever? I don't know. I expected to hear more about the flexibility of Aaron Rodgers only having 1.165 million. So the contract's getting reworked and stuff, though, Harold. So I'm not necessarily I'm not commenting on it because I don't know exactly how the cap hits work and stuff because it hasn't really come out yet. We've heard a lot about it being restructured and being reworked, but there's nothing that's come out today or yesterday or anything like that that's been a surprise. So I don't think we really know the hit for each year yet. That's why we're not commenting on it too much, right? Like it's.
Yeah, I mean, we're still kind of waiting for that. So
yeah, but I don't think it's going to be 1.165 million. Like, because Hal, you said something about 1.165 this year, like 100 million next year, or something like that. It's not going to work out like that. So I'm not really necessarily sure what it's going to look like. But did Rodgers' new deal become official? No. The contract numbers? No, I haven't seen anything.
The contract, no, but it's official that he's definitely a member of the Jets.
Mm-hmm. Michael Carter is trash, which I talk about the Michael Carter, the running back. I wouldn't necessarily be. I'm not as faithful in his running back too as I was last year. So I could see drafting a guy and hoping that he could be more than Michael Carter.
It's funny because he was good year 1 and he was bad year 2. It's like it was very different. Like it was a very high variance. It's like what happened.
Mm-hmm. BYU fan Zach was. Oh, BYU fans back. Drafted 2nd overall. Rodgers was drafted in the 20s. Okay.
Just a troll.
Okay. David, I'm assuming you're talking about Corey Davis plus 112 for Hopkins. Kyle, we're doing that every single day of the week, right? Davis and a 4th for Hopkins.
It's exactly what I said.
Bro,
what, 20 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago? Yeah. So definitely no question about it in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
We got another super chat from, again, Truman Theodore Dumel for $9.99. What are your thoughts of us drafting Audric Estime? I don't know how to pronounce his name. Next year, he's a better version of Jerome Bettis for Notre Dame football. P.S. No Notre Dame haters, please.
Kyle, you could tell me this is a guy who's never played in the NFL before. I've never seen this name in my life, so I can't comment on him. But if he's a better if you could tell me he's a better version of Jerome Bettis, is he in the Hall of Fame yet? He's in the Hall of Fame, right?
Bettis is definitely in the Hall of Fame for sure.
Take him. Okay, yeah, so take him. If he's gonna be Jerome Bettis plus, then yeah, sure. But you could legitimately say that Audric Estimé. He could be an accountant in Ohio, and I would know no difference.
But here's what I gotta say. Give me a recent running back in the past 15 years or so that plays the way Jerome Bettis played and has that body style and stuff. I mean, it's just, does it really work in today's NFL that much?
Brandon Jacobs is like the most recent. But he was like same time, right?
And Brandon Jacobs is 6'4". Jerome Bettis was nowhere close to that.
I'm just saying, like slow, tough, bit. Because you could say,
like a downhill runner. Yeah, but the thing with Brandon Jacobs is he was always part of one of three. Like what was it? The Earth, Wind, and Fire combination. Mm-hmm. Oh god, that was annoying. I fucking hate the Giants, man.
Harold says that Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, and Alan Lazard and McCole Hardman is plenty good. Yes, I agree. I agree when they're healthy. Harold, I definitely do. But last couple of years, Davis has been playing about 11 games a year. So let's say those other 5 or 6 games that he's going to miss. Hopefully, he's obviously healthy. Knock on wood, that'd be great. But those games he's not playing, are we comfortable with Garrett Wilson, Alan Lazard, and McCole Hardman? To me, no. So I would like to have a wide receiver 5 who could step in. I'm not, again, it doesn't have to be some stud out there or anything like that, but a guy in the 4th round who can develop, I would like to see somebody there. So what do you think about Matt Ioannidis or whatever the hell his name is from the Panthers? I believe before that, the Commanders. He's more of a
DN type guy, edge setter type dude. I don't really know much about him.
Yeah. I thought he was more of a pass rush interior guy than a run stuffing guy. So I can't really tell you too much, Kieran. But in general, the Jets need to get a run stuffing guy. I know they've been connecting more to Al Woods than Matt Ioannidis, whatever the hell his name is. So I don't really know too much. But I've seen the name out there. It's a name, but I'm not sure how much of a run stuffer is versus a pass rusher. So does Mims get traded this weekend? I think it's a possibility.
Who wants him?
I think it's a possibility, but for what, Kyle? Like for a 7th round pick? I don't
see you getting much higher than that. I mean, could you maybe get a 6 from some sucker? Maybe, but I can't. I mean, you did get a 6 for Cashman, so
exactly.
All it takes is one dumb team.
Let's see. So we have Henry Confidential, who is bringing up an underrated point about the O-line, Kyle. After I read the rest of this, let's see if it's underrated or overrated point. Zach was so bad and took so long to make decisions. O-line started to get beat. Rodgers will make immediate decisions. O-line will be fine if we go JSN. So this is what I brought up before, Henry, was the fact that Aaron Rodgers just getting the ball out quickly is going to undoubtedly help the offensive line. But and I get that, but having just Brown, Mitchell, and Becton is still not enough for me. Just based on their injury history for Becton. Max Mitchell didn't play last year, and he only played for a couple of games and was okay at the very best. And Brown is 38 years old and just came off of surgery. So I agree with your point, but it's still not enough for me to say, okay, yeah, I'm not grabbing an offensive line in the 1st or 2nd round.
I mean, there's definitely some truth to his point. I mean, like, listen, Zach Wilson was terrible against the blitz. Think about the Jaguars game. Never even sees the blitz coming off the edge. Doesn't set the protection right. It's he fumbles the ball or whatever. Aaron Rodgers, he's a guy who, blitz him to your own risk, right? You blitz a guy like Aaron Rodgers, you're going to get burned sometimes, and it's going to go for, big, deep completions. Those chunk plays, as Tony Sperano would call them. So there's absolutely no doubt that a guy like Rodgers, I mean, like, not only does he get the ball out quick because he makes quick decisions, scans the field quicker. Someone like Zach Wilson was always slow at processing last year, but Aaron Rodgers, he has the quickest release in the game still to this day. So there is so much to be said for that. So of course he's going to make the offensive line look better. And then when they play with more confidence, they also improve their own play as well. So we did get another super chat once again from Truman Theodore Dumel from $4.99 this time. What type of possible magic can Garrett Wilson and Jackson Smith-Njigba perform? And what wide receiver duo do they remind you of, past and present? The New York Jets jokes end. I think he's saying like people are going to take them serious now. Yeah, for sure. And there's gonna be people who are looking to dunk on the Jets even more so, because that's what it is with going against the Jets. So what duo did they remind you of the past, Kyle? That's kind of have we ever really had anybody in the past like 2 decades who's been as explosive as Garrett Wilson? Yeah, I don't think he's necessarily saying it has to be a Jets combo, but it could be like any wide receiver duo combo.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really hard to. It's honestly really hard to say. I can't really think of one off the top. The first one that comes to mind is like Justin Jefferson and Thielen or something like that, like a more of a slot guy and stuff. But the age isn't the same, and Jefferson's different than Garrett Wilson in some ways, and Jason's different than Thielen. I don't love comparisons, so I don't really know, Kyle. Anything that comes to mind for you?
I can't think of one either. Like you try to think of some great wide receiver duos, and it's like nothing's really lining up. Like you think of Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison. It's like, I don't think that's really a good combo. So I can't really think of a good one. But the point is that the two dudes obviously like each other, which is cool. They're going to be excited if the other one's scoring touchdowns and the other one isn't in a particular game. So that's good because, wide receivers are known to be divas. So, you don't want a guy who's crying like Terrell Owens all the time. Oh, why am I not getting the ball? Why am I not getting the ball? No, sometimes you're just happy that your boy's scoring. And obviously, to their skill sets, Ohio State was able to utilize them in a bunch of different roles, and it obviously worked. So, you have no doubt that they can translate and work well with each other at the next level. So that there is something comforting in that. You just don't stretch your draft evaluation. Oh, well, these guys played so good in college that, automatically I have to have them here. It's like, well, if the offensive tackle is the better player and he also fits a bigger need, you can't stretch the evaluation just because they happen to play at the same college.
Apparently, Howard knows my dad and cut my dad's grass and went to high school with him. Fire department. I still don't know Howard. I don't think. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I do. Maybe I do, Howard. Maybe I saw you in real life. Kieran says, "Let's go Knicks."
They are winning at halftime by 10 points.
I will be supportive of the Knicks for all the Knicks fans out there, but I don't like Knicks fans in general. So it is what it is. But for the Jets fans who are here who like the Knicks,
I don't hate Nets fans. Knicks. I don't hate Nets fans. Nor do I don't hate the Nets either. But I am a Knicks fan.
Okay. Let's keep going on. Christian, there's some arguments about Q stuff still. I don't know. Let the dog out. The dog is out. Dog is out. I'm just afraid he likes to dig holes. I don't know how to get your dog from stop digging holes, but that's been my recent issue is the hole digging. So it's a pain in the ass.
Does he bury stuff like bones and stuff?
So he'll like put his ball like in a hole, and then he likes to dig his ball out of the hole. So it's just I don't know. But I have to watch his balls like multiple times a day typically. It's a pain in the ass, but hopefully he grows out of it. Perry. Okay, I'm about 20 minutes behind in the chat, so I'm gonna keep filling up. At any other questions in there, throw it out there, and then we'll bounce out if there's no other questions, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night. Randall just re-hurt his ankle. That's not ideal, obviously.
Oh man.
Elias, I haven't seen you in a little bit. With McGovern back, you could draft a center and put McGovern at guard and ABT at tackle or someone. Yeah, I don't think they're going to do so many gymnastics where ABT is going to start at guard, then move to tackle. I think ABT stays at guard for this year, but McGovern offers you obviously depth at center and at guard. So if you do have an injury there, I think he'd be the first up to play over a Cologne and over a Schweitzer. But I'm not going to do the gymnastics of moving ABT to tackle. Like at this point, let's just keep ABT at right guard, right, Kyle?
Absolutely. There's no way I'm moving ABT from guard to tackle. I mean, like if I have to do it for a game due to drastic injuries, okay, so be it. But ABT, I view him as a potential all-pro guard. I don't think he's going to be an all-pro tackle. Just is what it is. We were talking so much about length before and how absolutely important it is and how it always matters. Well, ABT just doesn't have the length.
Let's see. Did you watch a lot of the JSN film? I watched him in passing when I was watching Garrett Wilson and Fields, and I was very impressed. So
yeah. Same. He definitely does pop off the tape. He's definitely a really good player. I didn't even watch a ton of him. Like there's basically really very little film from him this past year because he only played in 3-ish games, and even those 3 games that he played, he barely got the ball. So you really really have to basically, and this is one of the reasons why Eagles not as high on him as someone like Zay Flowers. You have to look at his sophomore year, the year that Garrett and Chris Olave were tearing it up, as the one solid year of eval with him. And it's a great year. I will say that when I did watch him about a week and a half ago or something like that, I watched his 347 receiving yard game against, was it Utah in a bowl game? And I'll say that a lot of those 347 yards is just blown coverages. So he's a really good player, and that's not his fault that they're blowing coverages or whatever. I'm saying you see a stat line like that and you automatically say, oh, put some context in those numbers. But he does he creates separation. Listen, I think there's a decent chance the Patriots take him at 14 before us because the Patriots love guys with great 3-cone drills. JSN is like what 99 percentile all time in terms of like 3-cone drills, and they
Yeah.
certainly need a receiver. So I think there's a decent chance he's the pick there if he's there for the Pats, if he even makes it there. So I don't even know if he's going to be an option for the Jets, but I think he's going to be a good player. He's got good ball skills. He tracks the ball really well. He's really good after the catch, even though he doesn't have the long speed. So yeah, there's a lot to like with that player.
Harold says the Aaron Rodgers restructure was official since 4 p.m. yesterday. Which I feel like I would have seen it.
I don't no. Connor Hughes keeps saying that it's not fully official. Apparently that he did something with the Packers with his contract, but the Jets are going to still rework it too.
Yeah, that's my understanding. Is
confusing.
Yeah, my understanding is the same as Kyle's, Harold. It's still not necessarily new for the Jets. Like it's chalked to what we thought it would be for the most part. So I think there's still going to be some type of restructure. But maybe you're right. I don't know. We got to see. I want to see it confirmed that that's the actual number it's going to be. Truman, another $5 super chat. Appreciate you. Is there a player in the NFL draft that you both love who's a sleeper that no one talks about, but you love? PS Jets haters never die like cockroaches. Kyle, I know how you're going to answer this, and it's not what Truman necessarily wants, but go ahead because I have the same answer.
Do you?
We don't have sleepers because we're not really so invested into this draft. Like this draft, because of the RODGERS trade, because of all of that in the offseason, not knowing if we're going to have pick 13, not knowing if we're going to have pick 43, not knowing what was going to happen. We weren't very invested into the draft this year. So I feel like to have a sleeper, you have to know quite a few guys. So I don't really have a sleeper because I'm very, very baseline in this draft. Obviously, I'll have a very good idea of who these guys are after we draft them and I watch 10, 12 games of film of them. But for right now, I can't say, there's a sleeper that I absolutely love.
That's definitely part of it for me too, but I also had a very tough time getting a lot of film this year. I only got some in like the past 2 weeks or so. So I was a little bit behind on evaluating some of the guys, but now I finally have access to a decent amount. So whoever they end up drafting, I'm going to watch a lot. So yeah, it's tough to kind of say like who my sleeper would be, but
whoever the Jets draft, that's my sleeper. I love that guy.
Okay. And the whole thing, somebody said something about Nania and his article about centers and stuff, and Steve Avila. I don't know. The games I watched of Avila, he was a guard. He played at guard, not center. And I wasn't the hugest fan of him either, truthfully. So, anyway.
Okay. Yeah, but I appreciate the super chat. Kev asked Joe, what time are you stream drunk tomorrow? It'll probably be, I'm going to say like 10:30, 11 is the earliest I would start. And then post draft is probably like 11:30 is the latest I would start. So I would bank on like 11 o'clock. I'll probably jump on with you guys and just be talking. Zach Wilson, let's see. Are you worried? We have the worst backup QB out of all the contenders. Do we?
Is he the worst backup quarterback? I mean, certainly if he was the starter, he'd be the worst. Is he the worst backup?
I feel like you can't really do worse than Tim Boyle as a backup, to be completely honest. Like we have to look through the Bills and the Bengals and the Chiefs and all that stuff. But can I say in a vacuum, am I comfortable right now with Tim Boyle being the backup? No, I'm not. Like I would like a Teddy Bridgewater, a Chase Daniel level player, whoever it may be. I'm not comfortable with Tim Boyle though. I would have loved them to sign Teddy Bridgewater for $3 or $4 million, whatever it's going to cost. Maybe 5, 6. I don't know.
I definitely support bringing Teddy Bridgewater, and the thing that concerns me is his ability to stay healthy.
This is a good one from Mega. For O-line, I would look at Bucky Brooks top 5 and then invert it on my board. I guess he doesn't like Bucky Brooks. That's a good one. I like that.
I wonder who his top 5 is.
Yeah, I don't know. Rich says definitely more with the guy that mentioned how much better our current O-line is than people realize with competent QB, but not against improving the O-line. Yeah, the
O-line definitely needs to be improved, and that's one of the key reasons.
Even if we're going to argue that Brown is better, Becton is better, and all these guys are better with a better quarterback, which I think is a fair argument. I think it's a true argument. But the problem is Mitchell went out with blood clots. Brown is 38 years old and had an injury last year, and Becton hasn't played a game in pretty much 2 years. So you have to have some depth. So and listen, at the end of the day, Becton, is he here next year? Brown, is he here next year? Is Mitchell even a starting level player? So you might have 0 starters that you do in 2024 on the Jets roster tackle right now. So drafting tackle is not a stupid idea. Harold says, you guys are correct. They will restructure again, but most likely to affect future cap numbers. That the number is real. Over the cap only posts official contract data from the NFLPA. They don't speculate. Yeah, so that's what I heard too, Harold, was that they were going to, it wasn't necessarily about this year or next year. It was about 2024 and 2025 or or 25 and 26, how the cap hit was going to hit the Jets. So I'm not sure. We gotta see. I stuck with the contract stuff. You could be 100% right. You probably are. Rich says if JSN slides, which I doubt, I would take him in a heartbeat. I think you guys disagree, but that's my opinion. Great stream dudes. If he slides, I would take him. And be fine with it. It's just, are you taking him over Skronsky, over Johnson, over Wright? At that point, I would have a problem with it, but I wouldn't be mad with JSN pick. I'd be happy. I like him as a player. So,
yeah, I mean, if you asked me 2 weeks ago, because I was hearing a bunch of lukewarm things with the tackles. I don't know, but after I started watching them and seeing the potential in Broderick, seeing the potential in Paris, liking Darnell's film quite a bit, feeling that Skronsky, you have a lot of flexibility with him. I just started thinking and then I guess I don't know, the unknown. I guess I started having a little bit of doubts about JSN just because it's kind of like the 1 year type of thing, and just wondering how high his ceiling is. I do think I think he has a very high floor, but how high his ceiling is, I don't know. I guess I started to get a little nervous and saying, I don't see how you can prioritize him over one of the tackles. So, But listen, if JSN is the pick tomorrow night, I am going to be happy. I'm not going to be disappointed because I think it's a guy who, you pair him up with Garrett Wilson and, looks like you got a good receiving core for the foreseeable future. So,
for sure. Yeah. Do you guys think Dwayne Brown is our starting tackle? If so, and we draft a tackle and he loses to Becton, our first round pick is now on the bench. I think whoever's drafted at tackle is going to play right tackle right now. I don't know if you disagree with that.
There's no way Dwayne Brown's playing right tackle. The dude has been in the league for centuries and he's always played left tackle, never played a single snap, I don't believe, as right tackle. So they are not moving Dwayne Brown. You could bet your last dollar on that. Now, what's interesting is are they going to put Brown on the bench and just say, oh, you're a backup? I mean, Brown might just say, well, fuck it, I'm going to retire. I mean, he could say that.
Good, $10.5 million right there. That's
or did the Jets just cut him? And can they cut him? And what would be the cap implications?
I think you can cut him. I think you can cut him post June 1st and save all of his money. If you could tell me, hey, he doesn't want to play here,
trade Becton? Do they trade Becton? That is they're not picking up his 5th year option. That's the rumor, right? So if they draft a guy 15, what is the likelihood that Becton is traded on this draft weekend?
It's a possibility.
I would say it's a decent percentage. Is it 20%?
I would say it's a possibility. I would say though that whoever the tackle is, whether it be right tackle or left tackle, if let's say it's a left tackle, let's say it's Paris Johnson, I think he competes with Brown and probably beats him out, or at least they give him the leg up, and then Becton beats out Mitchell. If they were to draft let's say it's a Darnell Wright and he's the right tackle, I would imagine that Becton gets the chance to play before a Dwayne Brown does, because he has a potential, he's a higher ceiling and he could be here for longer, for more years. So, but I could see that, Kyle, legitimately. Let's say they draft Broderick Jones. Could you see a Becton traded? I think it's a possibility. So, yeah.
Did you watch any? It's going to be interesting, man. The offensive line, Joe Douglas he so badly wants it to be good, but it's just hard when you're dealing with injuries and stuff and uncertainty there. I don't know exactly what they're going to do. I keep seeing Eagles, one of them, but it's also other people too, think that Zay Flowers is better than JSN. Now, you didn't watch any Zay or Addison, did you, Joe? I'm curious because
No.
Okay. I certainly don't think Addison's better, and I only watched one game of Zay Flowers. Zay is small though. He's 5'9". I mean, JSN is 6 foot. So I mean, there's a pretty big difference there. JSN's a bigger slot guy who, he can get some of those contested catches over the middle too. Zay is small. He's 5'9", which is, shorter than someone like a Tyreek Hill, but he's not the burner the way that a Tyreek Hill is either. So I don't know, man. It's tough for me to say that he's better.
Yeah.
I get that he has more years of production, but that doesn't automatically mean that he's better.
Kyle, what the percentage chance that this is actually Karen who looks like this, or do you think this is somebody who made a Karen account just to say stupid shit like this?
The latter.
Not 97%. This is not really Karen.
Correct.
Okay. Just making sure. Good take, guys. Thank you. We appreciate that. Steve Smith really likes Zay Flowers. Didn't he really like?
He really likes JSN apparently too.
Yeah. I think he called Cooper Kupp, I believe, as well. Harold says, I don't see O-tackle in first round. Dwayne Brown and Becton are starting tackles next year unless there's an injury. Think we get one in tackles.
Dwayne Brown's approaching 40 if he's not 40 yet, and Becton has not played in 2 years. So
my problem
Harold,
with that,
I'd love for us to not have to draft a tackle, but because we've invested so much in offensive line already between the free agent signings and the first round draft picks. But your offensive line is still an uncertainty. So
Yeah.
I wish I could be as confident.
Yeah, like what happens if Becton goes down for his third year in a row, and now you have Dwayne Brown, who's 38, 39 years old, and Max Mitchell, who had blood clots and was not ideal as a starter last year. So then you're having
He
those
struggled
guys.
a lot in
Reggie
that
Rogers.
Steelers game.
And again, you don't have any tackles on the roster past this, past Max Mitchell in 2024. So draft a guy for the future. I'm okay with that. But I can see a world where they draft a Cansey or JSN at 15 and then draft a tackle in the second round. I can 100% see that, but I would bet it's for the first round. Rich says, man, I don't know, guys. I can see Becton easily being our best tackle this year. I can't.
Rich. Love you, Rich. Rich is talking about getting his head right. Rich, Becton's headspace had nothing to do with his injuries the past 3 years.
With his knee. Yeah,
his repeated injuries in his rookie season, where he missed about 4 games or 3 games or whatever it was, and then constantly was in and out of games. His headspace had nothing to do with that. And then the knee injuries, which was 2 different knees, if I'm not mistaken, each of the past 2 seasons. Now, you could argue that, okay, his head space is a little bit better now, and he's focusing more on his diet and losing more weight. And because he lost weight, he's going to be less likely to get injured. Maybe. We don't know that for sure. I mean, like, some guys are just more prone to injuries than others.
Yeah. I'm on receiver. Let's see. I hope you to see it tomorrow night as well. Rich, let's see. Becton is so young. Becton is going to be, he's going to come on to it's all great, all the Twitter stuff and all that, but his knees are banged up. Like signing his 5th year option, one, you can't do it now, but his 5th year option is like $13 million. He hasn't played in 2 years. We're going to sign up for a 1 year, $15 million deal. I can't see that happening. So I disagree with you guys. He dropped 50 pounds.
Again, dropping weight, it certainly can help, like putting less stress on his joints and things like that. But here's the thing also too, and I don't think he's dropped that much.
It's not like a positive mindset.
It's like about 30-ish pounds, 30, 35 pounds, something like that. Like,
you ever see those movies, Kyle, where like a guy's like getting crutches and all that stuff? It's like, I can walk again. And he just like gets up. It's not like your mindset just affects your knee.
But here's the other thing we got to worry about too. Like, okay, Becton drops that much weight. Is he still as good? Because one of the things that, was appealing about Becton was he was so damn big. Like, he was so big that, like, even if he didn't have the perfect hand placement, you're running into a 370-pound monster. Good luck bull rushing him, right? Like, so, if he's playing around 350 something now, it's a little bit easier to move that guy. So, I mean, like,
yeah,
no, because he's dropping weight. Let's not automatically assume it's a great thing. Like, listen, I do like it. I do like it because I do think that it'll probably put a little bit less stress on his joints and stuff, and hopefully help him to stay healthier. But I mean, that's not.
Let's be, and I appreciate that you smash the like button. I appreciate that. We got the sauce. But the thing with Becton is, like, yeah, I would love for him to be here past this year and be our franchise, left tackle or right tackle, because we drafted him at pick 11 or whatever. Yes, pick 11, right? Like, I would love that. But realistically, he hasn't played a game in 2 years. His first year, he's pretty consistently injured, like banged up coming out of games and stuff. So if you had to put it like a percentage chance and he plays more than 50% of the snaps this year, like, what is it, Kyle? Like 50-50? Like, I don't know. So I just can't, just because he's in a better mindset and he's motivating on Twitter, people on Twitter, doesn't mean he's just going to suddenly be healthy. I get that the weight helps his knee, but it doesn't solve the issue. It's still 350 pounds versus 370 pounds on a knee is still a lot of pressure on a knee.
And it's still a surgically repaired knee. I mean,
yeah.
I'm just, as someone who's dealt with knee injuries, I mean, I tore my meniscus my senior year of high school and then played the whole year on it. My knee is not the same. I literally, to this day, when I go to the gym, I purposely do not squat super heavy because while my legs are pretty strong and can handle the weight, my knee always wobbles. It always wobbles. It's not as stable as my other knee that's not surgically repaired. So, I mean, if he's had his knee and somebody just said it's the same knee surgically repaired, I mean, like that's twice over. So, yeah. I mean, there's plenty of reason to be concerned. And Harold said that Samini said that he was up to 400 pounds. I don't doubt that he was at a certain point, but I don't think his rookie year he played anywhere near 400 pounds, maybe 380. I don't think he was playing anywhere near 400 his rookie year.
Mm-hmm. Rich says, "Oh, come on, guys." Well, I'm not saying, we get what you're saying, Rich. We do, and he could be the Jets' best. But like, the thing with Becton is, like, Kyle, let's say even he has a good year, what do you do with him? Because based on his first 3 years, he's on the field.
Yeah,
If he has
that's a
that
good
big
question.
fourth year, he's going to say, "Hey, sign me to a big contract." Are you willing to sign him to a big contract with a big guaranteed money when he hasn't been healthy 3 out of 4, years? Even if he's healthy this year,
I think you have to try to, and you probably put some clauses in there about his weight. Hey, listen,
Yeah.
man, you're not getting this bonus if you don't make this weight by this day, and stay. You have to weigh in every week and constantly be below this, and
Mhm.
yeah, it's not easy.
No, sorry. RJ says, "Do you guys think Brees is ready to go week 1? I think Carter and Nee or Jags, our ground game will suffer." I would say Carter last year was a Jag, but he has potential to be much more than that. I think Knight does too. So I wouldn't say they're necessarily I wouldn't label them as Jags right now, especially if you consider that they were running behind an offensive line that was down to like their 47th offensive tackle, and you're running into an 8-man box because nobody respected Zach Wilson. So it's a really shitty position to run into. So I would be a little bit higher on the running backs and what they can do. I think he'll be ready to go week 1. I see him getting more like 5 to 10 carries than 15 to 20, like kind of sprinkle him in there, but not like rush him, So Happy Tanking says, "I never get the notification, so I set an alarm on my phone, but then your days and times change." Yeah, so I'm sorry that I've been so over the map with the times. Wednesdays at noon and Wednesdays at 5 and Thursdays at 6. I should be more consistent now that I'm going to day shift, but yeah, I'm sorry, but I appreciate you being here regardless. Happy Tanking, even though you're late. Let's see. Backton has to prove he can stay healthy, and what is proof, Kev? Because to me, is 17 games this year proof enough? It's not. You're talking about 17 out of let's just say 30, I don't know, 70 games or so he's been able to play as a Jet. It's not enough proof, just another 16. So yeah, I hear what you guys are saying, dudes. I'm just more optimistic, but I get we can't count on him. I'm just saying I'm not surprised. Yeah, no, I agree. He could be the best tackle, Kyle, because realistically, his rookie year he was a top 10-ish left tackle in the league, so he could easily be the best tackle on the team. He could just as easily play 5 games and miss the rest of the year, though, right? Like what's the better chance? He's our best tackle and he's great all year, Kyle, or he plays 5 games and he's injured all year? 50-50? I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little bit harsh, but statistically speaking, eating disorders like Beckton's are rarely ever resolved. I don't care how much weight he's lost in the offseason.
Has anybody with inside information ever said he's had an eating disorder? His family's huge. Yeah. Look at the size of his dad. He has, he comes from genes of, big people. I don't know that he has an eating disorder. And his mom is a professional chef. So I'm sure that she makes some good food that he enjoys eating, but does he have an eating disorder? I don't know.
And like kudos to him for losing the weight now, because you'd figure it'd be easier to lose the weight in the actual off-season program. So you'd assume he'd lose even a little bit more weight, So Kyle, you don't have a professional therapist. I like you, but comparing your level of
rehab to a professional athlete is not analogous. All right. I'm going to respond to this, Joe, but I want to give you a chance to do it first.
I don't really know. I think he's
responding
you a question. I don't really know.
Well, no. He's rebutting what I said. So I brought up the fact that I had a surgically repaired knee. I had my meniscus repaired. Okay. And then I actually got a staph infection from the surgery. And then the doctor had to go in again and then remove the part of the meniscus. So literally in my knee, my left knee, I am missing like my meniscus. I'm telling you that surgery affected my knee. I'm literally missing a part of my knee, Harold. So regardless, it doesn't matter how much fucking physical therapy I would have went through. My knee is not the same, Harold. Injuries, even if they're repaired, they can affect you long term.
Oh, so, for sure.
Harold,
Dude,
Harold, I'm sorry to say it. I respect you. You're definitely one of the smarter people in here. You're wrong about that.
I can tell you, obviously, again, it's completely different. I don't have professional therapists, all that stuff. I can tell you personal experience. I've tore my groin, I tore my labrum, and I still feel those every once in a while. Like if I don't warm up and stuff like that before I do certain stuff, my shoulder will flare up or my groin will flare up, or like a twinge every once in a while. But tears suck; they never go away. And some injuries and stuff. So let's see. Being fat is not.
Some people are saying that, being fat is not an eating disorder. Okay, so, and then Harold says it kind of is. So does every fat lineman in the NFL have an eating disorder?
Or just maybe I don't know if you have to say disorder. Maybe it's just a little bit of lack of self-control sometimes. I don't know. What do you call eating yourself to 400?
But he's 6'7". So that's one thing. So he's big. He has a big frame. He's got his big bones. I mean, like, do a lot of offensive linemen put on bad weight in the off season and then lose some of it during the season? I don't know. So is every time I don't know. Is every time someone gain weight, they have an eating disorder?
I don't know. I love this, Chrono. Professional soul food chef, not just healthy diet chef or normal chef, but soul food. Yeah, like gumbo type shit. Yeah, like that'd be hard to deny. Truman with another super chat, $5. What do you guys think about Brandon Joseph, Isaiah Foskey, and Stetson Bennett? Go ahead, Kyle. All you.
Stetson Bennett is garbage. I watched some of him. I don't know about the other guys.
Yeah, Truman. So you're relatively newer to the stream. I focused a lot on the regular season stuff, so I reviews prep for every single person who's been brought into the Jets, including probably about 200 plays of RODGERS. So I've been focusing a lot on that. So I haven't gotten to the draft this year like I typically have. So there's a lot of names I know nothing about. So I can't really tell you much about any of these guys. So I apologize. I know these are all Notre Dame guys, right? So he's a Notre Dame fan. I can tell you as a Notre Dame fan, I've been to Notre Dame and it was fucking awesome. It was an awesome game to go to. Unfortunately, they played Georgia Tech and Georgia Tech passed the ball like 4 times. So it was quite a boring game, but it was nice to go there.
When did you go there? What year was that?
2015. So I actually got off of work at security guard.
Was Sean Kaiser the starter back then?
For the Colts?
You said you went to a Notre Dame game.
Sorry. Was it that? I'm trying to think if it was him. It might have been him that year, right? In 2015, Kaiser? I think it was.
I think he was 2016 draft. So I think
I think it was. But yeah, I left work at midnight working security guard. We drove 10 hours to Indianapolis, went to a Notre Dame game from 12 to 4, and then we went to the Colts Monday night game. That was a good. Obviously, the Jets won. That was a fun one. Let's see. You have knee surgery. You might have more insight than injury. Yeah, it's true. No beef with Harold. We love Harold, but we've been beefing with Harold a little bit more recently.
Well, Harold said that he used to get more respect on here.
Let's say enjoy the stream, guys. Appreciate that, Rich. RJ says every O-line that retires drops 100 pounds almost immediately. He's back then, maybe. Yeah, we'll get away. We'll get away from the back then stuff. Harold says doesn't matter how you dress it up. It is a disorder. There are different levels to this. Not 600 live life, bad eating disorders, but it's still not a healthy mental space. Want to hit on that, Kyle?
I don't want to keep arguing with Harold. I do respect Harold. And
I think it's
sometimes
really,
people get in arguments. I'm not saying
more,
he's taking it personal. Because I don't mean I love a good argument. I mean,
I think you guys are disagreeing more on the terms of what you label a disorder.
All right, so Joe, here's what I'm going to ask you. Joe, do you feel like in this society that we live in nowadays, everyone is so quick to label something a disorder or a mental issue or something like that? And there's like,
I could tell you that if I grew up right now, they would have put me on pills when I was a kid for ADD or something like that, for sure.
So, I mean, I guess all I'm saying is, I mean, I'm not calling anybody in here soft or anything like this. I do feel, and, you know, I study history and stuff too. The generations are definitely getting softer. And at the same time, like we could also say, oh, we're more educated than people in the past were and stuff. But this is a professional athlete that is paid to be big and large and eat a lot of stuff and destroy people because he's a big, girthy man. Because he beefed up in an off season where he literally wasn't even allowed to work out because he had a bad knee and he wasn't playing football. And maybe he got near 400 pounds. While he's not working out, he knows he's not going to play anytime soon. He has a disorder because of that. Like, you're making it seem like, and I get you're saying that it's different than being 600 pounds or whatever, but what evidence do we have? Do we have a primary source? Anyone that knows Becton personally that says, oh yeah, he has an eating disorder? Like, I just feel like you could get yourself in like it feels like a pretty strong accusation to make, and one that you could make for a lot of NFL linemen if you go and say something like that.
Yes. Is anybody truly healthy at 300 pounds? You know, so do they all have disorders? Like, it's like, what are we going to label disorder? I don't know, but I get both sides. It's just, I think what's the quote you always say, Kyle? Like, it's not necessarily.
Yeah. I feel like
a lot of arguments would be solid
if we agreed on what terms we're arguing about. We're actually arguing about
that. I think you can chalk that up with this one. It could be worse. You could be a USC fan. Georgia Tech is okay. My buddy Vinny, Vinny, he's a G Tech fan.
Really?
So that's why we went. Yeah, he's a G Tech fan. Classic Stephen Hill, right? That was G-Tech. Devils or Rangers, who wins the next game? I don't know, because the Devils looked like such shit at home, but I think I think the Devils came out and looked like such balls early on was because they have so much, they have a lot of pressure on them because of how well they did in the regular season, and they're so young and they're not as physical, or not a physical team that they get used to physical hockey in the playoffs. So I think the Devils are more who they were games 3 and 4. I think that's easy to say, like, oh yeah, they won. That's who you think they are, but you're looking at a young team in their first 2 playoff games. Obviously, you're going to expect some adjustment to the playoffs. So I'm going to say the Devils. Fuck it. Why not? Devils win. Harold H says, it's not personal. I am good, Kyle. I am not soft, not paid to be ineffective because he is 400 plus libs. He has been big in college, 389, can't control his weight. That is the point. I don't think we're saying you're soft, guy. And a lot of the problem too is, and you know this, Kyle, especially with like Twitter and certain, just even texting, like it's really hard to kind of decipher messages and how people intend words when it's just so simple where you don't hear like voice inflections and things like that. So people tend to argue more over text and Twitter just for that reason as well. So I think you guys aren't necessarily arguing, but nonetheless, you guys are good. And we love you, Harold. Rich, we love you as well. I agree with the parts of what Harold and Carl are saying. Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, for sure. It's not, we're not getting crazy here. Becton has played to bulk up, but clearly was out of shape. Yeah, it's like, yeah, he's paid to be that big, but was he too big at a certain point? Yes, I agree, and I also agree with your point that
I don't disagree.
I also agree when you're that big and your mom's a soul food chef and all this stuff, and you hurt your knee and you're laying on the couch for 3 months. It's easy to get fat or gain some weight, when you're already. It's not like he went from 300 pounds to 400 pounds. He went from 375 to 400 pounds or whatever. That can happen. I can gain 10. Trust me, I gained like 12 pounds in Italy in 2 weeks. It was easy. So.
By the way, Joe Blewett, not a big fan of the Italian food. A little disappointed.
Yeah. It's so it's good. It's just not great.
You said it wasn't saucy enough or something?
Dude, no. So what? Well, no. It depends on the meal. Like, there's some stuff that needed more sauce. They definitely don't put as much sauce on their food. The thing that I didn't understand going to Italy was how much butter and cheese they cook with. So, like, yeah, it tastes great, but I could also fry a piece of butter, and that'll also be great. So, like, their pasta is just butter, cheese, butter, cheese. It's just, that's all it is. So it's great, but there's a reason it's great. So yeah, I was a little bit disappointed, but nonetheless, who cares? We have Aaron Rodgers. Hi, there you go, Dr. Phil. Thank you, Dr. Phil. Is that me? I think Dr. Phil at this point. I'm 260, Dr. Phil. We are good. Okay, so we appreciate you all. It's been 3 hours. I have to go eat breakfast or lunch or whatever we're considering it, since I just kind of woke up. But we appreciate you guys. I will be back on tomorrow.
Oh, Joe, we just got a super chat.
11 o'clock.
Once again from Truman Theodore Jamel, 199. What sets us apart as NY Jets? We are not bandwagon. So he's making a statement there.
Hold on. Yeah.
If you're a Jets fan, you're not a bandwagon fan. But I'm sure. Hey, listen,
we're getting some. We're
gonna get some now with Aaron Rodgers. I had a former student text me, and he's a Packers fan. He said, "I'm a Jets fan now."
I could see it. Like so the kid. When I went to Green Bay last year, one of the kids who went with me was Tom's sister's boyfriend. I don't know if you met him at a game or not, but he went with us, and he's a big Packers fan. He said if he comes to the Jets, he's going to root for Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, like as a second team. So we're gaining fans 100% just because of Rodgers in general and the fact that we'll be better. Rich is out of shape apparently. Joe, this is great. The bread sucks. There's bread that's it's like dipping bread, but it is the driest bread in the world. You'll go to other spots where the bread actually has like a softness to it. It's the best bread you'll ever have. But they have bread at restaurants where it's just not even, just don't even touch it, because it tastes like you're eating a cotton ball. I don't know. Happy Eats, great show again. Appreciate you, Mike White. Appreciate you, Rich. Appreciate you, Kev. Appreciate you, Harold. Dog barking. Good time to close it out. I will see you guys tomorrow night. I did enjoy the
discourse in this one. I feel like we have answer back and forth and discussion of ideas and stuff.
I will see you guys tomorrow night, 11:30-ish. Kyle may or may not be on. I might be a few deep, so excuse me if I'm sounding a little bit stupid or whatever, because I'm going to have a good time tomorrow with my friends. I hope you guys have a good time as well watching a draft. Hopefully the Jets kill it, and we draft all who we want, and he turns out to be a superstar. Kyle, any last words?
No, I enjoyed it, and hopefully we crush it this weekend. All right, guys, take care.